Yeah.
Let's share that thing.
Yeah, and we live. Yeah. I'm still setting up some details.
Welcome to the Kara Show.
Welcome to the live poetry reading of our original poems.
Poetry reading.
It's so nice to be prepared.
Yes, indeed. So, how are we starting this?
Do you have a poem?
I do have a poem. I've wrote it 15 minutes ago.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So, I believe somebody asked us to read a poem about hands. So I took the time to write 15 minutes ago a poem about hand.
Yes.
Hand in hand, we all stand on the land. Together we band, or only demand some dreamland. We got no plan, but we can't disband or little band. We walk on the sand in a no man's land, coming from our motherland, looking for some holy land. No one is in command, and there is no reprimand. We walk in the wasteland by the sun burned tanned. Our skin is branded, hand in hand we stand together on the sand. Yet we never feel stranded, because together we stand. And that was it.
Wow. Bravo. Okay. People, for everybody who wants to join, we will read for the first 30 minutes our poems, and then I will post a link, and you can join and share your poems with us. I will end the link. Okay. I also wrote a poem about hands. It's for Philip, who watched our previous stream. I wrote it today. A moment is right now. I look at my hands. What was that I wanted? Ideas and plans. I wanted to laugh, to swallow my pride. I wanted to call you. I wanted. I tried. Hands intertwined, deep starry night, beautiful music, seed so bright. This moment is now. I look at my hands. The future is coming to meet my demands.
Heck yeah. Amazing.
Thank
I like
you.
the I look in my hand and to see the future or something like that. Like you wrote something like that. There's a yeah, that part is very pretty.
Okay, so Daniel, hi Daniel. Would you like to join our live stream in 30 minutes? I will post the link later. Oh yeah, I see the messages. Accept them. Okay, in 30 minutes, I will share the link. we will read for the time being the prepared poems. Okay. So, Cordelh, do you have another poem?
Yes, I do. If I can stay sane when everyone loses their mind around me, if I can trust myself, misunderstood by all the people who doubt me, but I can consider the doubt without ever sharing my own fears, and I can move forward despite my route, exhausted, hungry and sweaty, while others flee to false victories. And that without complaint I choose a road dark, never taken, but obligatory. And yet I show no doubt. If I can wait without losing patience when I am lied to, and I know it. And despite everything, keep my foresight for those who would put me on trial without giving in or becoming threatening. If I must face hatred, but manage to not spill blood, and that even in sorrow I avoid hatred. If I can dream without dreaming, the only reason for my existence, and I can think without having to take out my sword, and that without losing my dreams, I can take distance of those who would crucify me by difference. If I can face glories or defeats in the same way, without impertinence, and in the quiet, keep my intimacy secret. If I can hear my truths turned into insult and mockery, and manages to keep my sincerity without falling into drunkenness. If I can see everything I like and what I gave my life for, silently being dragged, and then before my eyes be destroyed, and that I can bend without tears and rebuild everything with my tools, and never think about taking up arms, but just to start my life all over again. If I can risk all my winnings for others and lose it all without ever complaining. Or take me for an apostle and start again without fear to become a martyr or an example. And if after all this I contemplate myself and start again while remaining humble and keep my ambitions simple, then I could look at my reflection, and in the mirror I could see a man without regrets.
beautiful.
Yeah.
If I could, right? When did you write that poem? It's beautiful.
I don't know, like a couple of weeks ago, I think.
It's
Okay,
beautiful.
I know it's not precisely about Wonderman, but it's about getting beyond all the troubles and finding peace, which I would argue is not that far away from Wonderman.
I'll make sure to point out Sigma to that poem. It's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, it's inspired of a poem of, I believe, Walt Whitman, but I'm not sure.
Mm.
But the ending turn, the full message, and most of the construction is different. Part of it look alike, feel familiar, I would argue.
Hmm.
If you know the poem. Yes.
You know, I was wondering about something. Like I watched a video today about a guy trying to solve, he's a rabbi, and he tries to solve the conflict between Jewish and Palestinian people. And he said he tries it for 40 years now. And he said, I can go and change minds one person at the time. But people don't stick with it. They keep reverting to their own kind of confirmation bubble.
Yeah,
Thinking.
of course, but he keeps going. You said he's doing that for a while.
Yeah, for 40 years. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's the job ahead of me.
I bet he can look himself in the mirror every day.
Yeah.
And have no issue about it. You know, that's why, you know, sometimes it's worth being stubbornly a good person. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I have a poem here called If I Were Earth. Yeah, I wrote it, in 2020, 2 years ago, for one of our poetry challenges that we had. It was such a happy time back then. Blooming trees fill up my day. Golden sky late in the evening. The breath of night shows a new way to find the joy beyond the meaning. If I were earth, I would rejoice to grow new life, creating, giving, be all above me and below, the shelter, home, the source of meaning. Look up right now. What do you see? What flower is that? It's all me. I feel so peaceful looking at myself. Who steps on me? Please show yourself. It's me again. Always me. I am the earth that's walking. I am this planet's conscious cells. I live and love without stopping. Ah. A reaction to my poem from 2 years ago.
Come on. It's beautiful.
No, I
No,
hate it.
I remember that poem actually. It was written for the Rejoice.
Yeah, Rejoice.
I remember that poem. It was a good poem.
I don't know. I was so naive back then.
Oh, it was 2 years ago.
I
Come on.
cringe reading the old poetry is amazing.
Ah, come on.
Yeah, I
Let's see
should
if I
stand by my
find
poetry.
exactly. Let's see if I can find a
The poem
poem.
for Rejoice.
Yeah,
Yours was
perhaps.
beautiful. Like I remember it. That was amazing.
I don't remember all this. Got a ton of files, new files all over.
Yeah. While you keep looking, I will read the short poems that I started writing this year when the war started. So let's see. The first one. Oh, that's heavy. 5th of March. So the war broke on the 24th of February. So 5th of March would be less than 2 weeks into the war. I'm with you through the shadows, away, but there. Everything is real. Our eyes in pain, masked by fake smile. I hold your hands, hope that you can feel. And then a week later, we all together on this planet. We push dark thoughts away. We hope for a better tomorrow, but do the best we can today. Like slogans.
Indeed.
And then for my mom, I just remembered to reach out my arms, to touch you, falling into the good night. I will be there for you in shining armor, to feed the union of colors with the holy light. Oh, did you find Rejoice?
I didn't find Rejoice, but I found one for mothers.
Okay,
Let's
that's
read
beautiful.
that. Yeah. I remember being a child. Somehow days were sunny and mild. My mother, looking over me, smiled and would let me do pranks and run wild. We didn't have a grand lifestyle, but she made my childhood worthwhile. Of course, there were many trials and failures and people hostile, but she kept me at bay from harm. When I was mad, she would disarm me, and if sad, she'd wrap her arm around me and I would be charmed. I remember her warm odor and how bright were all the colors. I remember her hair falling in my face, my fingers twirling round and round her hair. Somehow, all was so new and fair. That's it.
That's beautiful. Your mom was such a beautiful woman.
She was indeed. She was indeed a beautiful woman. I'm surprised I don't have that. Oh, I found Don't Run with Scissors.
I can see. Okay, that is actually an excellent poem for saying goodbye to 2022.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I found Rejoice.
Oh, okay.
Rejoice. If one day I became the earth, I would grow flowers beneath you. I would turn colorful the dirt that you would step on. For you, I would give life to all the world. The tree would grow tall and a voice with the chirping of the birds twirled in a core would tell you, rejoice. If I was to become the earth, forgotten by all, even you, and none would remember or flirt, I would still give it life for you, even as I'd feel you be curd to some other man of your choice, and being your lover, my ward, I'd still whisper to you, rejoice. That's it.
It's so interesting how poems are those kind of photographs of the moment, of the emotional state, of the poetry label.
You know, the magic. Poems, they do magic.
Time travel.
More than that. Because they mean different things at different stage of a person's life.
So they grow with us.
Yes, indeed. Once they become a life of, they get a life of their own. There are some poems that are 400 years old and everybody forgot who wrote them, you know. I remember studying some of them, those anonymous medieval poems that nobody has a clue who the hell wrote them. Some of them are really, really good. It's just that, you know, the poem can survive a writer. There is actually more chances that a poem, I mean, sometimes there is more chances that a poem survives a writer. I have another one if you want.
Yeah, I love your poem. Huh?
Here's a kid that does not care. He runs wild, he screams and does pranks. His mom tries to teach him to share, but he doesn't care and doesn't say thanks. His dad points out with his finger that he should behave like a boy. A good boy, he says, with temper. Should always learn, not play with toys. The kid looks at his stretched finger, but does not see who's the good boy. Later, the boy looks at the sky. He should be doing his homework, but instead he dreams he could fly. His dad scolds him and tells him, work, for I want you to become rich. Stop having your nose in the air. The kid felt a prankster hitch, pointed the sky. He said, Father, look up the pretty birds that fly. The dad looked up, and a bird drop fell right in his eye, like eye drop. True story. True story.
True story. Happened. You know, I was contemplating that idea that we can't know what will happen in the future because we are not aware what is going on right now.
Are we not?
So, for example, the father in that poem, he could not know that the bird is approaching and what's going on in bird's stomach. So he was not aware of that because those were happening beyond his perception. And I remember that story from Bulgakov's genius book. Everybody, instead of Dostoevsky, read Mikhail Bulgakov. I advise, whatever it's worth. So there is this book called Master and Margarita. And it talks about the devil who comes to Moscow.
I got him.
And really atheistic Moscow. And he meets two critics who criticize newly written books, and they can either destroy or promote a writer. So they sit down on a bench and they talk about how they met this absolutely stupid writer who submitted his stupid handwritten book about Jesus. And they're like, Jesus was not real. Like, how would he like how would the guy know, and how ridiculous the guy's book was. And that book was everything to that writer. So they destroyed the writer completely. And they talk about it so casually. And the devil sits down with them. And he was like, you know, guys, I was there, like when Jesus was crucified. And I read that book. It was pretty accurate. And they're like, oh, that's a crazy person. We should like call the police or something. And he's like, you need to call the police. And if you guys want, I can predict your future. Because you see, the devil can see everything that is. He's like also kind of omnipotent. So he can, he's aware of everything that's happening. And he says to one of the guys, well, today you will be diagnosed with schizophrenia, and you will check yourself into mental asylum. And to the second guy, he says, and you will be straight out decapitated. And he's like, what? I like, how can I be decapitated? It's like, we don't have guillotines in Soviet Russia here. And the devil, well, you see, Anushka already spilled the sunflower oil, so you will be decapitated. And I will not spoil what happened next, but it's just really well written and extremely good book about humanism, philosophy, some of the best conversations in between people that I read.
You should
Yeah.
do a reading of that book sometime. It would be fun.
I would love, like, there are the conversation of the devil with the two critics was amazing. Also, one of my favorite conversation in there is Pontius Pilate talks to Jesus.
Because I'm pretty sure Bukakov is public domain.
Yeah.
So you can
I
totally
have the
read.
PDF.
That's a fun activity.
Well, yeah. It's my favorite book. I read it like 10 times. So there was this interview with Jordan Peterson talked to Lex Friedman, and Jordan asked Lex if Lex read Master and Margarita, and Lex, no. And Jordan said, I read it 5 times, and it's a deadly book. It's a deadly book. It's so deadly that I read it 5 times. Look at Jordan now.
That's fine.
No, but it is interesting. That's what made me think about don't run with scissors.
Oh yeah. Don't run with scissors in your hands. It's not a good idea.
Do you have a poem? Or should I read one?
I'm looking around to choose one. Got plenty of poems. It's just I don't know which one to pick. Oh, it's fun. Heck, I'd even take my guitar to read it. Let's see. I am the sun that lights the world, all the world with love and joy. I am the one that no one sights, the spirit in a good voice. Be it yours or from others, I'm the energy of joy, the rise of all the lovers, and a romantic ploy. I'm all the positive vibes, the friendship and families. I'm the sea sea. I'm all the hopes and the dreams wrapped together into bliss. Beneath the moonlight bright streams. Oh, I'm the love behind the kiss. I'm the sunshine that lights all the world with love and joy. I'm the one that no one sights, the spirit in a good voice. It's yours or from others. I'm the energy and joy. Rise of all other lovers in their romantic ploy. That was it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, really. I didn't think too much like
You have your style. You
I have
your
my style. I have a style.
Bob Dylan was a wonderful poem, and he also had.
He also had a style.
Yes.
I see. It's okay. It's okay. Oh yeah.
So people, I posted the link. If you have poems, just come in and read with us. It'd be awesome.
Oh, I have one here too for after.
Nice. So let me read one. The room is with waiting room, so I will let people in after I'm done finish reading it. Okay, so that's one of my first poems. As soon as COVID started, so the first terrible thing in 2020 is the isolation. Written beginning of April 2020. A month ago, I did not know how beautiful it was to sing together, joint hands, and dance our hearts out for a cause. I looked for amber in a rubble that washed upon a shore. I walked through forest far for hours, not wishing to have more. Today I'm singing for myself, sometimes for folks on Discord, and all my friends are very sad to be without touch and bored. The Discord friends, really funny thing. They seemed unreal before, but now, after hanging there, I value them much more. I listened to poets, learned from them, and here we go. I write my own poems, my own thoughts, though not as deep, just light. A quote from Nietzsche made me look for meaning in my life. Is isolation really hard? Or should I try to thrive? No style.
Come on. You said it yourself, it was your first poem.
Yes. I did not yet have written, and English was not yet that good.
It's okay. We'll learn. Even I make mistake quite often, actually.
Yeah. You write poems in Spanish and French and English?
I do. Would you like me to read a poem in French?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I have an easy translation, but I can always Google translates my stuff. Let's see. Oh, I have one here. Actually, no, let's not read that one. Let's find a better one. Sorry. Yeah. This one is pretty. So, this one is called J'ai rêvé de toi, mais ne peux te le dire. It means I have dreamt of you, but cannot tell you. J'ai rêvé de toi, mais ne peux te le dire, car tu n'es plus là. Je n'ai plus de soupirs, car sans toi, j'étouffe. Je n'ai plus de rêve où l'on se retrouve, car mes nuits sont trop brèves. Car tu n'es plus là, je n'ai plus de vie en moi. Quand la mort se révéla, elle me fit hors la loi. Sans toi, je suis seul, ma partenaire de crime, et je fuis vers le seuil du sombre abîme. Il n'y a pas de bravoure pour les victimes d'amour absents pour toujours. J'attends ton retour, mais je ne vois que des vautours. Aujourd'hui, je ne suis plus, car sans toi, je ne peux être. De la vie et la mort exclus, je n'ai plus ni Dieu, ni maître. Si sur ton lit, je m'étendrais et je péris de maladie, il n'y a pas de paradis où tu m'attendrais, comme il n'y a pas d'enfer qui surpasse ton absence. Cette vie pénitentiaire n'a d'équivalence, car sans toi, cette vie est une prison où seule la mémoire me nourrit. Mais je ne vois que ton linceul. Ton visage disparaît comme je disparais. Je crache à la face de la mort et reste à la merci de mon corps, attendant sans espoir le même tort que fut ton funeste sort. Et pourtant, j'aimerais tant te revoir, même si les miracles ne peuvent se vouloir. Wow, that one was a heavy one. So basically, it's a poem about somebody that has a dream of somebody else, but they cannot tell them to that person because that person passed away. So, you know, that's the very short version. And then, well, I could translate it, but perhaps you have people waiting in the waiting room. Nope. Okay, then let's translate it. Let's make a quick translation.
Oh, I ask people to join with poems.
Oh, come on. You can tell them to read anything. No?
No, but like, yeah. It's like this just chatting kind of sort of thing will be tomorrow. We will talk about nonviolent communication.
Nice.
Yeah, it's based on a book by Marshall B. Rosenberg. We'll be discussing chapter 3, but basically people who didn't read the book also joined the conversation, and
it goes a little bit off track.
Yes, but Nehema, it's the woman that was here on the last live stream. You remember her, like the with black hair? So she will be co-piloting that stream with me. She read the book, so it's amazing.
That's good.
I'm looking forward to that.
So the translation. I dreamt of you, but can't tell you because you're not here anymore. I have no more sighs, for without you I suffocate. I don't have a dream anymore where we meet, because my nights are too short. For you're no longer there, I have no longer life in me. Then, when death was revealed, she outlawed me. Without you, I am alone, my partner in crime, and I flee to the threshold of the dark abyss. There is no bravery for victims of love absent forever. I wait your return, but I only see vultures. Another one, sorry. Big. You should cut that.
That's not edited. Just like I leave it there.
Today I am no more, for without you I cannot be. Of life and death excluded, I no longer have God or master. If on your bed I would lie down and die of sickness, there is no paradise where you would wait for me, as there is no hell that surpasses your absence. This life, this penitentiary life has no equivalence, because without you, this life is a prison where only memory feeds me. And then the last part. Here it is. Yeah, it is a very sad poem, actually. But I only see your shroud. Your face disappears the same way I disappear. I spit in the face of death and remain at the mercy of my body, waiting without hope the same wrong that was your fateful fate. And yet, I would love to see you again, even if miracles cannot be desired. That's it. Actually, desired is not, even if miracles cannot be willed, like through willpower. You okay?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that one. It's like that that idea that we can have conversations based on the memory, maybe with the memory of a person, but deep inside we know that it's not real because we know what happened.
Not just that, but to be totally honest, even memory has a tendency to not be very accurate. So, and also it has a tendency to fade. So, yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about the nature of reality and try to reconcile that with the cycle of life and death. Literally, because on one hand, we're smart enough to understand, like the universe and the galaxies and microbes and I don't know what. But on the other hand, Jesus, we only stay here for what? 60 to 90 years tops? And if lucky, if you're like particularly exceptional, perhaps you reach 110. But yeah, you've got to be like special. I mean, how do you reconcile philosophy, culture, everything that humans create with the cycle of life and death? And that is fundamentally why I'm a pacifist. because wars are like literally the freaking stuff of death, you know, like sorry. Yeah, it just came out. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So the cycle of life, life,
Yeah, the cycle.
unpredictability, English,
Mhm.
uh,
Unpredictable.
predictable,
Yeah.
unpredictability of what is gonna happen, mortality. The idea, sometimes I talk to people who think about their mortality and the reason for life. And when there is no calling somehow, like from the outside, that tells them what is your meaning for life, it's hard for them to generate it on their own. And
In this poem, I do point out that the death of loved one is actually death, you know, or perhaps even worse than that, because the narrator, the character of this poem, doesn't believe in heaven and hell and God or in anything like that. So that is like an absolute. And if you take into consideration the memory stuff and like what you were saying, the abstract side of the future, then yeah, there is a lot of meaninglessness in all of that. But you know, that's the kind of stuff people study with philosophy. You know? I mean, nihilism, and what's the other? The Stoics and the. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to think too much about philosophy. Sorry.
I have a poem that I wrote 3rd of May. We paint on, it's yeah, 3rd of May. We paint with pixels on Twitter today. True artists, pure hearts, without sunlight. I know love can sing in many odd ways, expressing on this wall or felt in the night. It's about Twitter wall.
I can guess already. It's fun though.
Yes, I was writing very short poems and another short one same day. Dusty bricks gave home to art. Freedom painted on this wall. Love has grown from the spark. We will heal. Let's end this war. So
you should put them in with image. You were talking about making small videos for, you know, different media.
Oh, the shorts.
Yeah, you could do that with those. They're pretty short. You know, they fit in.
Yeah. Well, I put out shorts, and weirdly, poems are not as popular as videos of aquarium, just like
as videos of aquarium.
Yes.
You could become the aquarium specialist.
Yeah,
you go
can you
visit
imagine?
you go visit all the aquariums and you make little videos about the aquariums. Yeah, you know, I've been trying to think about that actually. How to make poetry more. I'm not even sure if popular is the right word. I would argue it's more like accessible. But I don't know. I have no clue, you know.
Well, I think poetry right now isn't as popular as visual stuff somehow. Mm.
Perhaps one day we can manage to make little videos with our poems. But then my videos would be awful. Pretty sure.
Because they will not be little.
I don't know, they'd be like depressing and stuff. Except the happy ones, but you know, I guess the happy ones would be super psychedelic. Jesus. Like I am the sunshine. How the hell does that? Like big sun. And
I
that
mean,
becomes
I have read some of the AI generated poetry.
is it
I
good?
don't know. No, it's not bad, but it feels like it has no soul. I don't know why. Maybe it's just like
What do you mean by no soul? I'm curious.
It's not relatable. It feels like it puts a lot of catchwords, you know, like it's like, well, those words seem to be popular with poets. Let's put them all into one thing. It's
I
well
hope my
structured.
poems don't feel like that. Jesus.
I mean,
I'm like
yes.
good critic enough of myself to know that.
Oh, I was thinking about this short poetry, but which is felt. And there was this isolation thought that I opened up my eyes, I see a wall. I want to touch something, so I hit it. I won't go outside because there are people. The end.
Why not? Yeah.
Well, that poem has maybe not well written, but it has meaning. Like it has a soul. There is something in there.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Well, I don't know about AIs. I've seen many of the things they can do, and it's true that like that image stuff that we do now and then is fun. But at the same time, I don't think it should stop humans to have fun doing art, you know? It's not because you can have a CD player that you should stop playing music or stop playing the guitar or I don't know what, you know, basically.
There is. I like music played with real instruments. I like to hear fingers touching the strings, like
You like
even
the
little
mistakes.
mistakes.
You like the mistakes.
Even no, it's how to say it.
I know what you
It's
mean.
endearing. I somehow I shy away from total perfection. Perfection seems unobtainable and arrogant. Both somehow.
Perfection is flawed. There you go. I'm gonna use philosophy against perfection. Perfection is flawed.
Yeah.
Simple statement. And it's so true when you think about it. There is no perfection, you know. Like I cannot think of anything that's perfect except perhaps the universe, and that would be a huge freaking statement, you know, because I don't know if we are smart enough or, you know, rational or educated or whatever. If we know enough about the universe to actually say, yeah, it's well done. Perhaps the universe is actually really shit, you know, like in that book, Hitchhikers of the Galaxy. And then one day we discovered that, shit, what are we doing in this thing? Whoever created the universe made a big fucking mistake, you know? Perhaps, huh?
Yeah. Hello, Shani.
Hello.
How you doing?
How are you guys?
Hi.
Chilling.
Chilling. Dude, I liked your poem from the last poetry reading.
I liked your poem from the last poetry reading.
I can hear myself.
Yeah, that's fun.
Thank you.
That's fun. Oh, I can hear myself too.
Oh, we should
We
mute
should-
ourselves
No.
or speak more.
Yeah, we need to speak more. I think we need to sing actually. Then it makes
Shani.
like an echo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Shane muted.
Oh,
Oh, Olga.
Ooh.
That will be a new person.
what are you guys talking about?
Poetry dude. Or we just like, we talk about universe and perfection as well.
Universe and perfection. Gosh.
I was in I went to work to pick up my check, and I was like picking up trash on the way there, and then I went in, and I was off the clock, but I was fixing, like, I was like, oh, that doesn't go there, and I was like, this is more important than the rule, like the standing rule. And I was like, well, it seemed that way. And I was like, but is it? It was like, and I was just like, as like where my subjective experience like met the world, the objective world, I was like, this is me. Like, this is me. I'm doing the thing.
We're all
And,
limited by your perspective, straight up. Like, I mean, in the sense, in a very large sense, like, and the environment in which we are, the things we are capable of doing, the desires we have, like the what we want. So yeah, we are limited by that. So trying to guess that the universe is perfect, I would argue is a little bit, far-fetched.
Okay. So guys, I want you to meet Rogério is a scholar of philosophy. So Rogério can add points to the philosophy, so mainly
Awesome.
Stoics, but
Awesome.
also Rumi. Like, I would not
Yeah.
consider Rumi a Stoic, but yeah.
He I think drew a lot from the Stoics and many other traditions.
And
There are some sides I could see, yeah.
And nice to meet you, Cordelh and Shane.
Nice to meet you.
Yes. So we all had been streaming together. Shane from Line by Line and also live streams. Rogério from his own podcast, which is practical philosophy or useful philosophy.
Useful philosophy discussion.
Useful
Nice.
philosophy. And Cordelh from since 2020, since the beginning of COVID, we streamed together for a long time. He's my long-time friend, and
We used to do poetry readings.
a lot.
Yeah. Still have some videos somewhere there.
Yeah, on your channel. So guys, I'm happy you all met. So Rogério, Happy New Year. I wished Shane already Happy New Year. Anyway, everybody Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Exactly. We are still in that season of that March in which we can tell everybody Happy New Year and best wishes and all that. It's what I like about this day is that usually people party, like together with their family, friends, their loved ones. That's a nice thing.
Rogério, you brought poems?
Yeah, I have a couple. So, okay, can I do reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd love to.
So the first one I called You. You fettered yourself to a false construct, which you call your personality. You are oblivious to your true self. Thus, you can be pulled by others like a puppet controlled by strings. You are easily prone to vices. You are quick to anger, degrading yourself. You compare yourself to others, bearing envy. You are a slave to lust, greed, gluttony, sloth, or pride, or a combination of these. Ironically, you are nothing admirable, while thinking of yourself as worthy of praise. Look within yourself and dissolve these fake demons, merely shadows of vice. At least cease harming others if you're uninspired to do good. Express gratitude for what you are and have. Bury the hatchet of war with yourself. Become yourself more thoroughly.
Wow. Beautiful and judgmental, Rogério.
Yeah,
I
it's
wouldn't.
a lot of stuff I write. It's almost like a message to myself as well. Drawing inspiration from Marcus Aurelius. He had that practice, and I think it's a nice practice to keep notes to self, because we need all the advice we can get, good advice to keep our impulsive side in check.
Oh, I totally agree. And actually, yeah, it was
In
very
check, but
interesting.
not like not regressed, not like
Yeah,
sucked back into the back of your being to where they will come out and like screaming or like craziness.
yeah. I think you're getting at a very important angle, which we must not leave unsaid, which is our mind has an impulsive side, which is like a powerful horse, and we need to keep it controlled, but we must not beat it down into submission completely. Otherwise, we will lack the will to do great things in our life, to overcome challenges and whatnot. We need both. We need the wise part of our mind, which is kind of slower, even works when we are asleep. And we also need the more impulsive side of ourselves, but it needs direction. It needs to be guided.
Well, I do think that there is an argument to surpass our humanity, not in the sense, like Übermenschen or I don't know what, but in the sense that what makes us human is mostly our flaws, like jealousy, envy, ambition, all those things, which are, human, basically. It's things that we will feel throughout our life. But if we act on it, that's when things become dangerous. As long as we feel them and we're in control of them, then, we can go along society and be decent human beings one to another. And I would even argue being good people, But at the same time, there is something about, for example, intuition. Intuition is super important, I would argue. And even if ambition can be something negative, it can also be a very big strength, to make you want to go forward. It's just that I do still think that it's something to keep on check, because look at all those people that are super ambitious and ruin thousands of lives just because they died ambitious, I think at some point ambition becomes a flaw, basically.
Speaking of ambition, I got to go to work really soon, but it was, I just wanted to step in and say hello and hi, you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Shani.
But yeah, I would check out the Gospel of John if I was gonna. I went to church yesterday and was talked down into reading the Gospel of John. So, and or I read John 1 and 2. But yeah, you guys have.
Do you have them at hand? Do you want to read it?
Oh, I was gonna read. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I got Proverbs
it
3:6 here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on,
Please.
share a little bit.
So, yeah. So I was thinking about, it's not really, it's in my context, it's not super important to me, but it's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. So that was, yeah.
It's pretty deep. Everything that has something to do with religion usually has some depth to it, you know. Not particularly sure what the hymn means, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I figured it's something very vast, like basically everything or something like that, you know.
See, and I think that's why, like, the devil is God's highest angel, because I feel like there's something in music that you don't get there, like, but also Nietzsche wrote The Birth of Tragedy in the spirit of music. It's a really weird, like, combo.
Music
but
is, you know, music is very special, I would argue.
yeah.
But on a literary level, the Silmarillion, one of the very first part of that book from Tolkien, it's like entirely descriptions of music, which is the weirdest thing ever. It's really hard to read, actually, because it's just music and colors, and then some names like they're mingled within it, because, you know, it's the creation, so there is just nothing, and then he describes how everything is created.
I can't help but think that, like, the single, like, the individual is the most important unit, because like, my experience speaks words that resonate externally, to where people, like, there's to where good things happen if you speak your internal truth, that you wouldn't get from, like, I was like, oh, like, that's not the thing I want to read. Like, that's not the thing to say. And I feel like the thing to say is Christ, or like the thing to say is, like, the thing inside you that, like, snaps things together in a way that's like, or that, like, once things start being like,
you were asking in the beginning of, you know, your phrase, that sometimes you feel like the individuality is more important, if I follow well.
yeah,
I
like,
would argue that we need to define what it is to be an individual, because I think the big part of what it is to be an individual is to have link with people, you know, like social links.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, like, I see my path off the beaten path. And as soon as I start to take steps towards that fucking not individualism, I feel more connected to like, caring. And I'm like, oh, this is like caring, and like specific people in my life, or specific people. And I'm like, this is
Well,
better
problem with
for
specific people, I would argue, is that I'd say it's the wrong way to put it. You have to be good, basically, with everybody you meet. And there will be some jerks and some, you know, like whatever, that ruins your life just because they're in a bad mood or they had a bad day or they just don't like your personality. But on and on, there is an argument for just being nice to everybody you meet, you know, and then you see what happens. And, you know, if they jerks, well, you stop talking to them and you turn around and bye-bye. And if they're not, well, you made a new friend and there is 7 billion more friends to make.
And yeah, and then you're connected to the word. Like then you can actually like, yeah, because if somebody approaches you and you're not saying a word to them, you're on the wrong path. Like if you're an extrovert, at least.
Well, so, yeah.
Guys, let Rogério read because it's really late. Rogerio's
I'm confusing things. I'm gonna go.
No, don't worry. It's Sheni. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for stopping by. I really like
Yes,
your plan. Let's
Yes.
listen to Rogério.
Okay,
I'm
so
aware of your time zone.
this poem has no name, but I will start. In your deepest wisdom, you are endlessly playful. Let your true self be free, so you have a great time. Your thoughts are a surface of the deepest form of you. They can either let it shine or deform its appearance. Let the other radiate love at the deep you to alchemize your edge of self to shine bright too.
Yes, thank you.
Very nice.
No, I don't want to leave. That's really good. It's really good.
You wrote it?
But I gotta get
Yes,
to work.
yes. Yeah, probably Rumi was a huge influence and others. Good work, Shane.
Bye. Rumi is a very interesting figure. I think we did a reading of some of Rumi's work. Well, some translations. You know, it's always complicated with translation, but some translation of
I
Rumi.
agree.
Hmm.
I only have been exposed so far to Coleman Barks translations in its essential Rumi, and also there's the Masnavi online, who I don't really know who translated it, but it's completely, the entire Masnavi is online. It's great. It has the ancient Persian and the English side by side.
I can't remember which one we read. Well, I can probably look it up. It's in one of the videos we made.
Yeah, a huge part of his poems are about love, which is I find it fascinating how he how love was such a recurring topic for his poems.
But love is a very large thematic, you know, like a lot of people have a tendency to think about love strictly into a romantic side. And I do think that Rumi had an approach of love that was more universal.
Yeah.
Like he could talk about, I'm pretty sure he wrote poems about like brotherly loves and like parenthood love. I think I'm not completely sure if I remember everything, but I feel like I read something that he wrote that felt like that.
Yeah, and he also talked about how the fundamental essence of the universe, how he believed it was either entirely basically love or very much related to love.
I personally think that all of this is linked to the counterculture movement of the 60s with that new age vibe, you know, where they were all about peace and love and hippie stuff in the US. I'm pretty convinced that a lot of people back in those days read Rumi.
Perhaps, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe they only got small parts of Rumi because they emphasized peace and love, but they forgot that they remained unenlightened hedonists for the most part, and people that just dedicate themselves to the pleasure of the senses. They basically they don't find deeper meaning and deeper wisdom inside themselves because they're so focused on their senses. And so they actually accumulate vices throughout their lives, drugs, sex, alcohol, food, and whatnot, instead of accumulating learning and teachings and wisdom. And so their health probably resents with that lifestyle, for one, and probably their minds won't elevate. And this was also something that Rumi emphasized quite a bit. He talked about having a good, strict instructor, pray for a strict instructor, and to make us afraid of who we were, as if we were before a wretched individual that probably wasn't aware of many things about the life and the universe, and to improve lifestyle, improve the dedication to devotion to truth, to love, true love, not possessive love, true love that
I do want to say something though that,
yeah,
you know, I think adds to what you're describing, because the way I see it, indeed, you know, the hippies, they were known for smoking grass and all of that stuff. But literally, I grew up in Europe in the 90s. That was the golden age of the raves with, you know, all those pills that appeared all way back when. And I mean, those big underground parties, people went in, and there were so many people that the cops couldn't stop it, you know, because there was like 10,000 people going to a party. You can't stop that, you know, and that's it.
it's a force of nature.
Exactly. You can sort of like stop one, but you can stop 10,000 person, you know?
Yeah.
So if I have to compare that with some of the stories about hippies that I've heard around, I have to say there is I can hardly throw a rock at people that smoked grass, you know, and believed in peace and love. And then the second argument that I do find interesting is also when you take into consideration the social aspect of that period of time, you know, the 60s, 70s. Kids back in those days, they were innocent, you know, like literally they were born just right after the war, so they didn't know the war. And then it was the Reconstruction, Golden Age, everybody had jobs, everybody had a house. So
they had no hardships. They grew without any hardships. And so the wisdom,
but in a good way.
Yeah, it's good in a sense, but there's some value in having hardships in life, if not by imposition, by choice. For example, simple things like going to the gym ritualistically, or going to work on a bicycle, even if it's kind of cold and raining. Some people in Europe have this sisu thing, especially in Finland, which is kind of like a reincarnation of Stoicism. And they also take cold showers and go to sauna, and then cold shower again, and then sauna. Hardships, basically, that people pursue, and for a good reason, because it makes people more comfortable with being uncomfortable, explores their boundaries, and shows that there's nothing to be anxious about with such a banal thing, a vulgar thing as taking a cold shower or going by bicycle when it's snowing or raining. And so even the typical stress sources of life will seem just meaningless. We will develop much thicker character.
So you think that the strife makes us happy, basically, makes us better person?
Yeah. I was amazed when I studied both Eastern, Middle Eastern, and Western philosophers of like 2000 plus years ago. Almost all of them talked about how valuable and going through strife is in your life. And they would even use archetypal stories, stories like that of Gilgamesh, Hercules.
Yeah, but the problem with
Rama
strife is that you can live it, you can go through it, but you cannot wish it upon others.
Yeah,
you know.
completely.
So I don't mean to stop the argument or anything. It's just like something that comes to my mind that feels very factual, you know. Like people can choose in a sense or can endure it, you know, and can go through it. But to wish it to another person, there it's a whole nother level.
I have only talked to my coworkers that I go on walks at lunch break, and so far I'm going on walks by myself, and it's perfectly okay. But one or another time, someone tags along, and it's awesome. But we don't want to impose our lifestyle or self-discipline upon others. It's a very personal pursuit, and everyone is in their own lane, in their own stage, in their own stage of consciousness, and so neither person is the superior, because it would be like comparing a teenager to a baby. They are both awesome in their own way. They are both in their own stage, and they are both moving somewhere.
There is some word though to listening to elderly people, you know, even if they lived in different ages and different situations, they still have stuff to teach us, you know. And to be honest, even the young people, because when I look at people that are 20 years younger than me, it's not that, you know, they know more about philosophy or literature or anything like that. It's just that they more adapted to what's coming, you know. So it is interesting to learn what they know, just to stay adapted to what's coming. Otherwise you get out of, you know, out of the race, basically.
Yeah, there's this concept of anti-fragility. I think it's Yuval Noah Harari, who speaks about the concept of becoming anti-fragile. And also, as you mentioned, there is also wisdom in younger people. That is true. I believe it to be true. I found wisdom in my experiencing and listening to younger people. In a sense, they are untainted by society, at least less tainted as adults, because as it's clearly obvious, there are many ills in our society, mistaken ways of thoughts that crept up on our modern culture, which were not present in ancient times, which is something that it's really fascinating to see people think and live without these vices of thought and excel. And when children are born, they have this inner structure inside them, just because being human, they have this marvelously complex brain that already holds within it so many truths about the universe, because it is the universe itself in there. And so if we can facilitate a young one to talk openly, you know, to express their soul, pour their soul out, it's a fascinating experience to listen to someone just speaking, just expressing themselves, that hasn't yet been molded by society.
There is a few aspects about that. For example, I would argue that personally, I'm not totally convinced I have 100% faith, not in the young people, but in the approach that we educate and we give knowledge to kids. For example, nowadays, I know less and less people that read books, and more parents that basically tell their kids to use the iPad for 10 hours straight, you know. And I mean, I figured they will be super adapted to the whatever VR cask or whatever, but essentially I do believe that there is a lot more knowledge in reading books with your own eyes and making your own opinion out of originals than, you know, like seeing shortcuts or some opinion from a third party about an original. The second thing is, and it has nothing to do really with young people, is that the impressive things with infants, with young children, is that basically they create a million neural stuff, you know, in their brain. Like their brain is super active during the first X years, you know. So it's not that they smarter than us or anything. It's just that the brain is still processing all the input and then, you know, like getting adapted to that stuff. So yeah, there is a big argument about that. But then I'm thinking about Saint Augustine. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Still haven't studied it, but I know he exists. Yeah,
I love it, but it's a little distasteful for this you know, time and age. So Saint Augustine, I read one of his books, one of his treatises about childhood, and he has an amazing approach in which he actually argues that children are not born good people, they're born really evil. And humans have to teach them how to behave and be good human beings. Because if you reversed the behavior of children with adults, if you said, for example, an adult would behave like a young kid, scream when he doesn't get what he wants, kick the person next to them because they sad or cry or brush around. You see the behavior of children, you know, that sort of uncontrollable behavior. Like I wouldn't argue it's uncontrollable, but you know, personally, I think it's linked with that growing up part.
I think Saint Augustine was bullied a lot by children.
Oh yeah, I'm sure of it.
He probably suffered a lot trying to teach children. But in my opinion, and although I agree with most part of what he said about children, yes, they have these behaviors that are not pro-social. Yes, if they had the power in their hands to crush our hand, they would do it, because the babies really do try to grasp as hard as they can on us. I experienced that as a father. I was even at sometimes wondering if we created an artificial intelligence that functions in the same way as a baby and gave it robotic servos, probably it would not be very safe to be around, not at all. And so to me, it's very striking how in one sense, babies are not really guided by the intellect, because the intellect is still not formed at all. Their brains are not a tabula rasa, as John Locke would have said, but they are born with much more neural connections than adults have. And they, in the first months or maybe perhaps year of their lives, they undergo a process that is called synaptic pruning, where consistent with the stimulus that they receive in the very first years, the connections that are preserved will be very in function of those stimulus that they receive, especially repeated stimulus. So if the brain detects a pattern, then it must be something meaningful. And this is one of the ways in which brains operate. They are always trying to find meaning in something. And if something has a pattern or repeats some way, it will try to figure out this pattern and try to assign this pattern some sense or some meaning. And so just to say that these children, when they're really very young, they're trying to figure out patterns around them in one sense. So I wouldn't go so far as to judge them evil, but I would say that although they're not evil in the sense that they want to harm others, they are misguided because they are still trying to figure out the world. They are still trying to map the world in their brains, and also they are very self-centered. Anything that challenges their idea of what is normal, of what is acceptable, they will throw a fit. They will go into a tantrum. And anyone here who notices, who has been a parent and sees a child that is, they are kind of expecting something. They're kind of expecting some level of sunlight, and if the sun shines too bright, they will just throw a fit, perhaps, and the adult must figure out what's going on and correct it, basically. Mm-hmm. And this in all dimensions of sense, of food, of well-being, of comfort, of even receiving care from their parents, etc. So all these things, they are kind of like projecting a normal range, and if their experience goes outside that range, they will throw a fit. And I think that Thomas Aquinas was interpreting that because they are so prone to go mad, it's essentially, it's kind of like a going mad when they throw a tantrum. They must be evil. They must be somewhat similar to demons, and we must correct them in some way so that they are more like angels and less like demons. Mm-hmm. So kind of like a judgmental doctrine, but well, it is a product of that age, and it must have had uses at that time, but we know such a lot more, and we can combine the ancient with new and whatever, ancient philosophy with science.
Rogério, I wanted to ask you. So we have this challenge, in a sense, where guests or people who watch us, viewers, give us a word for the next poetry reading, just one word, and out of that word we create a poem. It's for me, it's like a mental exercise. And we have Sigma in the viewing party. And from Sigma, on the last poetry reading, I got wonderment as a challenge word, which I picked up, and I wrote a poem for Sigma. Super short, though.
Okay.
Oh, Sigma, that's for you.
I will accept the challenge and challenge you. So my word is being.
Being. Oh,
being.
That's cool. So, thank you. And you can write yourself as well for being. We can have a poem off. Like, you know,
okay.
We can have a little poem duel. And I will be doing poetry readings like every other week. So I will like twice a month approximately. Yeah, let's see how timing shows. Okay, wonderment for Sigma, written today. Beauty comes in many forms, shining brighter in reflection. Flowers fade, but get reborn, tender spirits of connection. I will treasure every moment, filling heart with graceful light. Wonderment is joyous wisdom, brightens up the darkest night. Yay, Sigma, that's for you.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So you can talk about children and
Can
how
I read
evil
one?
they are.
Actually, I want to read a poem, man.
Okay, Rogério
Yeah,
also reads a poem later.
Yes. But I don't know what to read. You read such a pretty poem. Now I feel like I have to read something happy and cheerful.
No,
Oh,
that poem has a double meaning. So
it has double meaning. Everything has a double meaning. You know, like the way we talk about children, perhaps, you know, in our depth, we actually believe that children are little angels. While talking really badly about them.
But we also, in a sense, are not completely adults. We still have an inner child, as so many say.
Yeah, that's one thing we have to protect them, because Jesus Christ, that inner child, I don't know where he's hiding nowadays. He must be somewhere there, drowning under all the whiskey and bourbon.
Actually, this was one of the things that I read from Rumi. He would say that most people on earth are really children, and that children always want candy, while adults, the very few adults on earth, they want self-discipline.
Yeah. It's a complicated thing. I was a very defiant kid. Like, I was the kind of kid that had a sling, would love to play with firecrackers, and dared my friends to play chicken on the road, and then, you know, didn't break until it was too fucking late and hurt myself. So, you know, I was the kind of kid that actually climbed the tree and was told not to. And then I was like, yeah, but if I don't try, it's okay. Yeah, sure. And then I would fall and break something, or, you know, break myself rather. I was a good kid. I love that, actually. Let's see. I don't want to read something I've already read. You know. Oh, I got one. Okay, I've got one. It's called Candle. The little girl trying to sell candles in a dark corner cobbled street. At night, in winter, she handles herself in the stench, bittersweet, of the dark corner cobbled street. It stinks so much, like piss and shit. Am I allowed to say that, actually? Okay. But she must sell a few candles, or she will have nothing to eat. She has only her weed's sandal to walk in the snow-covered street. She doesn't walk. Instead, she sits in between two trash bins. She fits. All she wants is to bring some light to the cold and darkened houses. She would turn all the streets so bright. She gave her food to the mice, but she's so hungry and too cold. And that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The rest is censored because it gets seeing a little dark. It's getting a little.
yeah,
Yeah. I like poems.
I was thinking about horrible stories or horrible poems
Not my favorite.
as an evening good night story to prepare our children, to humanize them against the harsh reality. So they go to sleep and they will process at night all this in the safe environment, so they can kind of learn to deal with the terrible stories, because when they will go out to the world, they will hear terrible stories. And I met today a person who was like, this world is too terrible, everything is too horrible. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And like we have to learn to deal with that. And poetry with dark stories is helpful, is useful. That's why all those night terrors do not forbid scary stories to your children. Let them talk, let them scare each other. They need it in order to deal with reality later. And then when I hear people canceling some stories that we read as children, I don't know. It's just like, no.
Yeah,
I'm sure Rogério
there's no wisdom in that, because in modern psychology, there's a concept which is called exposure therapy, where people that have a phobia even are exposed to that phobia until the panic subsides by itself. And they do this in repeated sessions until the rational part of the mind can figure out that the source of phobia is really meaningless and doesn't have any bearing to cause panic attacks. And in ancient times, as I've mentioned, people were talking about self-improvement and were telling stories like the Iliad and the Odyssey to little boys, especially little boys. These were stories, product of their ages. Also, the Ramayana was particularly gruesome, especially the parts where Rama is fighting the demons. It's very, very epic and very, very violent. But I think it would impress the youngsters that were listening to these stories. And so they kind of develop a kind of expectation that these things happen, these things are there, these things are at least in our thoughts. So I think people won't be taken so much by surprise when something stupid like a war happens in real life, and people need to not panic. They need to act without a panic to get out of danger or whatnot. The worst thing we can do when something, some catastrophe happens is to panic.
So, you know, when you think about it, it's something that's very natural, in the sense that all kids of all society tell each other scary stories, you know, like that concept of having a fire, the little kids get together, they hang out there, they tell each other a story about what's in the wood, what's beyond the mountain, whatever, you know, scary stuff. And I remember reading actually a paper in psychology in which they explained that it's the experience that we live unsupervised as children, in which we have to do our own decision, that really have an impact in our life, you know, in comparison of the repetition of each day being supervised with somebody telling you, now you eat, now you go to class, now you learn. Well, indeed, you will learn something, but as personality goes, it's that time that you will have to drag your friend because he broke his leg to an adult and ask help, for example. And that would actually shape your personality, because you're unsupervised, you're taking the decision of doing it, and something like that.
Yeah, when we are unsupervised, when we are taking our own decisions, isn't that a true expression of our character? In contrast, when were young and we had our parents guiding us, well, we were just being kind of like extensions of them. And so, yes, it's so important to start experiencing autonomy and agency at an as early age as possible, with reasonable risk, but with reasonable safety as well. But still,
I'm not arguing about the risk taken, you know, it's actually just about the feeling of autonomy, Because the reality is that an adult could be right next to the kids and just watching over and be ready at whatever bad thing that happens. But this feeling of autonomy and having to take a decision, that's what affects everything.
Yeah, that is empowering
Mhm.
for the young ones.
It also makes people trust their own emotions, you know. Can I read a poem, by the way? Cara?
Yeah, you read a poem, and now I wanted Rogério's poem.
Okay, so
You after Rogério.
Okay, so I can either read one poem I wrote about Socrates or one of Rumi's poem, because I don't have that much material, but
Read both.
Okay.
Or
So
read one and then we do another round.
okay. So Socrates of Athens fought in the Peloponnesian War with Alcibiades, who said victory would have been of Athens if all were as brave as he. He pioneered life devoted to philosophy of life, a man who did not seem to spend a single moment off duty. He even experienced his Xanthipist temper to learn more. He swore an inner voice, a kind of Socrates sense, if you will, was guiding him away from danger or from acting unethically, such as when he refused to enter the vicious snake pit of politics. In their panic about losing their comfy seats, the Athenian elite didn't even want to wait a few years for nature to take its course. They rushed the trial to accuse the wise septuagenarian of crimes they committed daily, while Socrates was entirely law-abiding. Though convicted in this sham of a trial to drink the hemlock, Socrates loved his only and last love, logging off calmly. While this witless elite, history henceforth stamped them as the fools who failed to bully a wise sage into submission. Such an impact was his that we now draw a line that divides Western philosophy before and after him. Thank you, Socrates, for your outstanding dialectic method.
Did you write that one?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I wrote this after reading some of the Platonic dialogues,
Mhm.
especially the early ones that are more close to him. And I also listened to a course online from a guy that is really passionate and really knowledgeable about Socrates. And so he gave me the context, the historical
Yes,
context
totally.
as well. I also read the Peloponnesian War,
Mhm.
written down by Thucydides, which is one of the most impartial documents, historical documents ever. And from that time, it's like something, it's a miracle for us to have a document like that from that war. And yeah, so I was also kind of emotionally, I wasn't left neutral emotionally because of what this trial was and what it meant at that time. So I felt a little bit of what maybe Plato would have felt, and other students of his. So this guy, he was just trying to help
He poisoned
society.
himself.
Yeah, exactly. He was convicted of crimes he didn't commit, supposedly, and he was ordered to drink a poison drink, and he did so without panic, without trembling, without any indication of stress, of nervousness. He was completely calm and was completely okay with it.
I don't know if it's true, but
Yeah.
I grew up with the knowing implication that Romans back in the day in antiquity had a very vindictive society in which you know like, well, Socrates is not Roman, but back in those days, what I mean to say is, but it applies for Romans. They would like not only kill the person that committed a crime, but they would kill everybody, basically, you know, like their family, their friends, everybody, just to make sure that they didn't have an enemy that would come back. And I suspect that probably Socrates, what happened to him is they probably told him, either you drink that poison or you go to exile. But if you go to exile, every one of your friends is gonna pay for it, you know, somehow, I would imagine, you know, even if the payment is not drinking poison, I would imagine that there would have been some type of retribution.
But still, Socrates went through so much in his life. He was 70 years old. He had fought in a war that was devastating. And he was basically one of the most courageous and dutiful soldiers and most self-disciplined soldiers, that even the leader Alcibiades, he praised Socrates for his valor in combat and duty to the Athenian army. And so this was peanuts to him, facing these corrupt idiots at the height of his 70 years of doing whatever he loved to do more in his life, which was to philosophize and identify. Yeah,
like, I want to put some perspective to it. So Socrates is punished of having to poison himself. He does it. On the other hand, back in, I'm not saying the same century, I think it's off by a few centuries, but you've got Archimedes. Archimedes, he's all obsessed about circle, that literally when the city is burning, he's still making circles and there's soldiers coming behind him and just stabbing him and killing him, while he's drawing circles on the ground. The end is the same, you know, they both end up dead. But the approach to that in both cases, I would argue, is extremely exotic to what we know. Like, what we know nowadays is mostly slow poisoning, and usually it's not forced, except in some places. But then I would argue that it's like intravenous shit, you know, like crazy stuff. Don't think they give a pill to anybody nowadays and tell them eat that pill. I thought they probably do poison people through food. I don't even want to think about those things, sorry. But basically, human can be pretty damn crazy. In any case, what I meant to say is what to choose, you know. What is the most honorable death? Dying drawing circles on the ground, or dying drinking by your own hand poison, you know. Both of them are pretty much absurd to me, you know, but that's from my perspective, from nowadays modern, with all my education, culture, and all of that. So
you wanted to read the poem, Cordelh?
Yes, I do. Let me see. I have it just here. I'm gonna read A Vagrant. A vagrant went alone in his old house, vacant of furniture, ghosting in, out of his reality. He sees his spouse walking up the stairs, out of sight, blown out. He trembles. He knows that he should walk out. He doesn't. Instead, he follows her steps. This dark derelict is his last hideout. Behind him, he recognizes her footstep. He doesn't turn around, knowing she's gone. A car drives through the street and he jumps down. He knows he should crawl away from this place. But there are memories that he must face. He walks up the stairs and hears ghastly cries. Flames burn the walls all around and he shakes. For an instant, he sees her face, her eyes. He feels that his mind is about to break. He stands up, legs shaking, his mind trembling under the weight of these visions crumbling. A vagrant in his mind that's resembling a home that is abandoned. He's stumbling between memory and reality. He reaches for the doorknob and turns it. Beyond it hides his own mortality, his failure and remorse, also defeat. He stands where time converges all in one. Everyone is both present and absent. He stands still, holds his breathing, and feels stunned. In this dead place, he can still smell her scent. He crawls on a corner where he can lay, sleeps in the place he's the most afraid. He'd cry, but doesn't know how to display his tears. Instead, alone, he begs and prays.
Oh, I don't know why it made me think about that Stalker movie. What was it? It was called Conspiracy Theory. It was with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, where he was like some conspiracy theories, and he was spying on Julia Roberts, and he like felt always so insane, and he was like this vagrant, like always spying. He was a taxi driver. And it's like, oh, it was.
It's funny.
Not a deep analysis, Cordelh.
No.
Yeah, it gives a sense of helplessness, and the character prays in the end. So there's might be some hope. Who knows?
Well, it's about a vagrant that goes back home in an abandoned place, and he gets those flashbacks in which he makes the reality in which he exists and then the past. And basically it's about him exploring that house and those two realities, in which people are both there and they not, and stuff like that.
Actually, I was once visiting some Roman ruins and my companion who was visiting with me. She had a flashback, and she said that she felt like there was someone there getting lashed with a whip, kind of like what the Romans would do to their slaves when they weren't behaving like they wanted. And she was kind of like emotionally struck by that vision she had in that place. And so who knows what these things are?
Empathy. Like she could hear the walls speak, probably. I kind of have this sense that it's not scientifically proven, but there are some memories that live in our blood, in our kind of DNA. I don't know how it works, but somehow it's like, that mice remember through generations. It's like grandparents of mice were exposed to something horrible. Their grandkids can already remember that. They will be afraid of the same thing that they so there is kind of genetic memory that exists.
Yeah. Genes are not just the ATCG letters. There's also epigenetics, and the epigenetics possibly is influenced by stimulus.
Well,
So-
not just possibly. I mean, think about it. Like if you put a family in a situation of stress for 5 to 10 generation, not talking about 1 or 2, I mean, like putting it like hardcore, you know, in which every generation basically ends up with PTSD, anxiety, and paranoia or stuff like that, you know. Eventually, kids will be born prone to that. And if you take, for example, another bunch of kids that are born in a society for 5, 10 generations that is in total peace and never have any fights and stuff like that, like organized fight, because I imagine that everybody has a brawl in a bar or something like that, you know, on a singular level. It changes people, you know, if they're not prone to violence or educated to go into violence, or if they, it does change people, I would argue. No, what is best, I don't know. Like, I would argue that probably a lot of people are suffering just because of so much war in this world in general, you know, like there's so much of that. And then it probably hurts a lot of kids, basically, simply, which is going to hurt on a generational level.
Actually, Frank Herbert wrote something that I have here in my notes. If you would like, I would like to read it. It's not a poem, but it's a little thought about this. So Frank Herbert wrote, "Atrocity merely arms the future for more atrocity. It is self-perpetuating upon itself, a barbarous form of incest. Whoever commits atrocity also commits those future atrocities thus spread."
Yeah.
And the poem, Rogério?
Okay, the poem as well. So the poem is Rumi. It's called Say I Am You. I am dust particles in sunlight. I am the round sun. To the bits of dust I say, stay. To the sun, keep moving. I am morning mist and the breathing of evening. I am wind in the top of a grove and surf on the cliff. Mast, rudder, helmsman, and keel. I am also the coral reef they founder on. I am a tree with a trained parrot in its branches. Silence, thought, and voice. The musical air coming through a flute, a spark of a stone, a flickering, in metal. Both candle and the moth crazy around it. Rose and the nightingale lost in the fragrance. I am all orders of being, the circling galaxy, the evolutionary intelligence, the lift, and the falling away. What is and what isn't. You who know, Jalaluddin, you the one in all, say who I am. Say I am you.
That's beautiful, man. Rumi was a genius.
It's amazing.
It is striking because the Sufi tradition is not a product of Islam. It is way older. When I studied the Old Testament, the Israelites were kind of complaining that there were these kind of crazy guys that would enter into a trance and write stuff and sing stuff and whatnot. And I was kind of listening to this account of them and was thinking, damn, these guys are probably kind of like the intellectual great-great-grandfathers of Rumi in 800 or whatever BC, and these guys were there doing their thing. It's kind of like a shamanistic thing, and probably there's a lot of this shamanistic thing in how Rumi got inspired, because he did some practices or rituals like dancing, listening to this repetitive music that was really, really entrancing, they would enter an altered mental state, probably also with shisha as well and other things. And then they would just dance feverishly or chant or write things in trance, things that would basically come through them as if from the universe itself and through them and into the page. And so maybe they were channeling or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. I had today this amazing conversation with Ariel and Graham. They are doing streams in a different time zone. So there is apparently the theory, which I wasn't aware of, about mold that contains psilocybin. And the French Revolution, which was sparked by Percy Shelley, all those poets of freedom, let's say. But he also said that like there was apparently this mold that other people also ingested, and they kind of helped them to break out of normal thought patterns. And they they rised up against the current ruling class. So breaking out of bubbles of thinking and usual routine patterns actually helps change things around and to move the progress forward. And AJ, I wanted guys to meet. AJ is from US. I also did a line by line stream with her, and I know AJ for 2 years as well. Hi, AJ.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yes, yes.
Nice to meet
We
you.
hang out in
AJ.
similar groups. Cordelh, AJ she knows Mercury. You know this crowd of sorting myself out, guys.
Mhm.
Nice.
Don't
How are
let
you
me
doing,
interrupt.
AJ? No. I'm so happy you're here. Do you have a poem or lyric? Or
I feel nervous. I just got in here.
no, just hang out with us then. AJ, I remember. AJ was known by another name, and she would come to our poetry reading, Cordelh. So AJ draws. She's a painter, but AJ also writes those short poems,
Mhm.
which are amazing. So I remember AJ wrote hand-painted a dragonfly, and wrote like a 4-liner about love. And also AJ wrote a poem for our challenge, Hell Doesn't Get to Have Me, I think.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I remember
AJ
that
was
one.
participating in our poetry challenges.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
enjoyed meeting with their poetry club back in the day.
That was a fun activity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might restart it, AJ. So.
Oh yes,
So,
yeah.
I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you
Haven't
as
seen
well.
AJ for a year, I think.
It's been a long time. Yes, it's very good to see you.
Yeah. So I really love your poems.
Thank you. Thank you. I wondered actually if I would start to read a poem, maybe I could start with someone else's.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I'm interrupting. I just like barged in here and then like.
No,
absolutely not.
you're absolutely
it's okay.
100% welcome.
Yeah.
So there's this poet I like. His name is Rogério. He was a Japanese monk back in the 17th century or something like that. And there's one story that he only had a few possessions, and a thief broke in and stole most of his possessions, but they left his one small floor cushion. And so he ran after the thief and he said, "Here, you forgot this," with the cushion. And then a very short poem came out of that. The thief left it behind, the moon at my window. I really like that poem, and maybe I could read a little bit more of his poetry. Who says my poems are poems? These poems are not poems. When you understand this, then we can speak of poetry. In all 10 directions of the universe, there is only one truth. When we see clearly, the teachings are all the same. What can ever be lost? What can be attained? If we attain something, it was there from the beginning of time. If we lose something, it is hidden somewhere near us. Look, this ball in my pocket. Can you see how precious it is? But those are poems I really like.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
I really like humility in saying that, like, this is not good poetry.
No,
No,
they're
it is.
awesome. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Straight to the point. I actually
That's
was
also
talking
how I
about
feel
it,
about my
AJ.
poetry. I only write bad poems.
Ah, come on. Don't say that. They were awesome. I
It's
love the
good poems.
sharing. Yes.
It is has the Zen minimalist in it.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it better one word of sense than 10,000 words, senseless words. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
completely agree.
it also has that Buddhist aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Zen Buddhism. Yeah, exactly.
AJ, I remember, so like the coolest thing that I have never heard. So anyone else do it except AJ. And like AJ, like I have 2 years more above it. Hayao Miyazaki, he's an amazing creator of the most beautiful anime. And so there was this Princess Mononoke, absolutely amazing animated film. And in the film, he had forest spirits. And I am a forest person, like I love forest, and I always feel like there are those forest spirits. And then I meet AJ, a person from like across the globe and the everything, and AJ says, I also love it. By the way, I can prove it. And then AJ shows me 3D printed forest spirits from Hayao Miyazaki movie. It's amazing. AJ, if you don't mind, I will provide the link to your Instagram.
It's kind of funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Nodrik, that's perfect. You're in a forest right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, you probably know who painted it. Like
Yes.
it's she's EM, but she also from the same server where we met. I will not name the server.
Yes. Yes, I remember her. Absolutely. It's a
Yes,
beautiful
we are
painting.
still best friends. So
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
it's fun that like time goes by, but it's somehow when you meet real people and you recognize them as like nothing changes. You make those connections for a long time.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
So we are taking turns reading poems. Rogério, you want to say
Just
something?
one thing that struck me from the thief left it behind. I had a situation in my life that is kind of similar, because one day I left with my bicycle and my helmet, but I didn't have the chain to fix the bicycle. And I went to a shop and put the bicycle outside the shop. And when I was inside the shop, I was always checking if if the bicycle was still there with my helmet. And so the lady was kind of asking me why I was checking. I just said, well, I'm just checking if someone will take my bicycle. If so, I'll just tell them to take the helmet as well, which I had in my hand.
Nice.
It's funny.
That's a great perspective.
My God,
Yeah.
after Cordelh reads his poem, I will tell a little story, guys.
Should I read a poem?
Yeah. Your turn.
At night, I dance with the shadows. The song in my mind, humming low, follows my steps in afterglows. In the eye of the tornado, I'm swirling high above the ground. All is blurred into vertigo. I forget everything I know. While listening to silent sounds, I forget everything I know. I remember days long ago when we danced beneath that willow and we kissed under mistletoe. I lost my heart in that meadow. I dance alone with my shadow. The lights dim and there's no sound. My despair does not let me go. As I dance, I remain shallow. My distress reigns on my gallows as all is buried by sorrow. Oh, if only I could let go, forget each one of my wounds, but I lost by curse a spell bound my shadow and self long ago. Light surrounds me, the fire grows and burns and twirls in tempo. My ghost left thy burial grounds, note they free and we waltz around. We spin as ourself we confound, and soon I forget all I've known. The darkness is cold to the skin. In my mind, to the void akin, my inner walls are closing in. Soon my shadow is breaking in. My phantom guides me by the hand from here to past long forgotten. I'm with her, dancing on the sand beneath golden clouds of cotton. Then I dance with my shadow, till we are both one with the dark. As this present, that's just a spark, I vanish within the void's flow.
I dance.
Yeah, that one is a fun one to read.
I think I know I dance by heart.
Do you?
And there is probably a video where I sing it.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
Rogério, now your turn to read the poem.
Okay, another one from Rumi. So, this we have now. This we have now is not imagination. This is not grief or joy, not a judging state or an elation or sadness. Those come and go. This is the present that doesn't. It's dawn, Hussam, here in the splendor of Cordelh, inside the friend, the simple truth of what Halash said. What else could human beings want? When grapes turn to wine, they are wanting this. When the night sky pours by, it's really a crowd of beggars, and they all want some of this. This that we are now created the body cell by cell, like bees building a honeycomb. The human body and the universe grew from this, not this from the universe and the human body.
Beautiful.
There is something universal to Rumi. He does engulf everything, basically.
I love the picture of the human body being built like bees make a honeycomb.
Yeah, and it's funny because there was not a telescope in those times. It was only much later with the Dutch guy Leeuwenhoek, and there was already this concept of the cells, you know, they're kind of like honeycombs. Yeah, it's really fascinating.
AJ, now your turn to read poems.
Let's see. I'm not sure where to start. I guess since probably most people here haven't known when I've read this poem a lot during poetry groups, but it is one of my favorite ones I've written, so maybe I'll read it again. It's a tanka, which is like a haiku, only with 2 extra lines of 7. So it's 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. And I really like this poetry form because it's limiting to me, and somehow that limitation makes the creativity easier. So here it is. Sharp, broken edges. Your pain dispels illusions and has made you wise. Let it make you kind, dear one. The beauty of strength is love.
Oh, but there's something beautiful into simplicity. You know?
Yeah,
Yes.
so few words, but wisdom, it's so concentrated there.
Yeah, that's something that that's like, I guess that's the whole reason I write poetry, is just like to try to like condense a large feeling into something that's like actually graspable.
It's actually an art, AJ, in a sense that you have an ability to condense large ideas into few words, but those words it's not like sharp, like that's the one word I can use, sharp. They just like go through the like, you know,
that's what I like about
perception
tankas.
filters.
Yeah, that's what I love about tankas. It's like you have to make it very simple, but it's also, it is enough though. Like it's 5 lines, but it's usually enough if you make it simple.
I agree.
I have one thing here that is attributed to Siddhartha Gautama, but it's likely penned down by his disciples. Okay, so even though speech be 1,000 of words, but made of senseless words, one word of sense is better, which if a man hears, he becomes quiet.
Very nice.
Wow.
And this probably inspired the haiku tradition, the minimalist tradition, so many things that sprang from this.
Yeah, wow.
I can't write haiku. I was trying to dive into it, and it's just like I do need a lot of words and words a lot, and this interpretive dance attached to the poem in order to partially convey the meaning. Okay, whose turn is it?
Like,
Cordelh, yeah?
I never
write
poems that rhyme. So it's like, oh, I don't know. Since they don't rhyme, I guess the tanka works best for me.
I mean, it's style, it's stylistic. Some poets write poems that rhyme, and some Rogerio's poetry is purely white poetry. So it's meaning in a poetic form. So Wolfy might come in. By the way, Wolfy says hi. So he also writes white poetry in a long expressive terms. So we might hear a little bit of that. So, oh my God, I will have like so many. It's like America, Europe. I don't know if I can count Rogério in Portugal, but Wolfy is from Australia. I would almost have all the continents. If you would just have one guy from Africa, it would be awesome.
A little bit of diversity.
No, it's like, it's funny about diversity. We all so different that even people from the same city, from the same town, they're all diverse. They're all different. It's because of our whatever is beating in our hearts.
Yeah.
I lost count. Whose turn it is to read?
I can read a poem if you want.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see. I'll pick one randomly. Just as the seconds passes, my heart pounds. I feel some kind of demon ripping through my ribcage. That is its shell, making sounds of running steps like the devil's pursuit. I know I should run or fight, but I freeze. How could I ever face my own demon? When my heart, my regrets, I can't appease. He makes me feel like I'm its dark prison. Sometimes it roars of hatred and anger. Sometimes it's waiting for the right moment. Then, with echoing sonorous clangor, it slashes me with vindictive torment. It makes me feel like it is my jailer, when really it is locked in my prison. To this demon, I'm its prisoner, even though this truth is beyond reason. Each pounding's louder than the precedent, each beating faster than the one before, to the point of turning me irrelevant. Even as I beg for calm, I am ignored. It's like it's waiting for my time to come. My heart is pouring blood through my thick veins. I'm overwhelmed by what I have become. No memory of my past self remains. I haven't transformed into my demon. Instead of this, I'm its favorite victim. I am waiting for its terrible treason, as I remain a bolt of this system.
Beautiful.
How long in your life have you been writing poems? Your poems are really interesting. They kind of explore meaning of suffering, and they present discomfort in a way that's really interesting.
I have some love poems, just that not fun to read. Yeah,
Yeah, these are kind of storytelling in a sense as well. So yeah, it's really interesting to figure out what's going to go on, what's going to happen.
You know, it's funny because I have been writing for many years, and I do write a lot of poems just for, just for pleasure, basically. Like a hobby, And now and then I can pick a few poems here and then pick a few poems there and then pick a few poems on the other side and make up some story out of them, because they are very descriptive, So right now I imagine I could end up with a love poem, and it would feel like, the sad guy that survived all of that and has the demon inside suddenly finds love or some stuff like that, But if I reverse the order, it makes it way more sad. Well, I'm gonna skip my turn and I'm gonna go take a 2-minute break.
AJ, do you want to read something? Go ahead.
Sure. Yes. I wondered if I might read two on this turn because they're kind of short anyway. They're both of a similar theme, which is lost love. In a moment of wholly dedicated love, I wrote your name in the most peaceful corner of my deepest heart. Now, in quiet moments, your name comes to me uninvited. You have left me, but your name has not. It remains like a pestering graffito that time and space have done nothing to erase. My heart has trapped the memories of you, and I am trapped in the memories. That's the first one. And then the second one is like kind of like a love letter to the moon. Once a long time ago, I fell in love with the moon. To me, she held the key to eternity, just as she held my heart. But she would come and go, and in going, she broke my heart. Sometimes she returns anew, every return more beautiful. My heart tied to her ebb and flow, my rise and fall in her control. And now, because she left me in darkness, I found my own light.
Very nice.
That's very beautiful, Rachel.
Thank you.
Because she left me in darkness, I found mine.
Yeah, it's kind of like giving the sense that if someone never experiences the darkness, they will never discover the kind of light they have within.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that too, it's like the light too kind of shows the potential, and then like going through the cycles helps you to realize that like you stayed strong even in the light and the darkness, and then like, oh, now I can do this.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I was trying to get at.
It's also the moon is basically speaking the same language as the sun, but very softly.
Yes.
It's still sunlight, but it's much more subtle. And so even if the moon changes completely, the night isn't severely changed. It just changes by small degrees compared to absolute day and absolute night, as the sun can change so drastically our experience of being here. And so if we can see in our lives change, even big change in our lives, as something as discrete as the phases of the moon, probably things will be all right.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to put it. The sun and the moon are both symbols that I use a lot in my poetry. We're gonna get to the sun ones later, but I like how you pointed out that the moon is like, does the same cycles as the sun, only subtler, because I feel like for me, the moon came to me at a part in my life when I felt like the sun part of me was, it would get burned up by the day. Like the light was so bright that whatever was meant to grow in the darkness, like wasn't able to fully express itself. And in the moon, something about the longer cycle and the gentler light was able to grow something in the darkness that was not able to be in the sun. So I like how you put that.
Oh, hi, Wolfy. I like it.
Hello, Wolfy.
Hello, Wolf.
You guys are good. So today I will call the show a reunion. So Wolfy is also an old timer from back in the day, when we used to stream poetry a lot. Okay, guys, Wolfy is a musician, and we recently released a single called Ocean's Storm Cloud. Yeah.
Which
Hello?
is
How are you doing,
awesome.
Wolfy?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay. I was just checking. Yeah, it's the first time I use Zoom. How you going, guys? Yeah, that was a great project. Oceans was awesome. So we did well.
I will provide the link to Spotify, where Wolfy publishes.
Cheers. Yeah. Cool.
So we
just
have
so how do
Australia.
guys, can I ask a question? How do you get those funky backgrounds? Like you've got can you do that through Zoom? Is that an option?
Yeah, Yeah, so if you go on the lower left side, you have video settings. And in video settings, you either blur your background or you choose a
Oh,
virtual
yeah.
background.
I see it now. Okay, sweet. I'll try that.
It's awesome. Yeah, so
Thanks
Wolfy
for
is a
that.
musician. How many albums do you have so far? Like 26?
I think it's something over 50 albums. Plus,
Oh
it's
my God.
in
Wow.
totality, if you listen to my entire discography from start to finish, it would take you a day and a half. So
That's awesome.
You're kind of like as Aristotle was for science, you're for music. Lot of volume, lot of stuff.
yeah, I try to be as productive as I can. So I'm just trying to think of what would be a good background. Oh, the space one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now what do? I've clicked that, so that'll do that now. Come in
Wolfie,
with
I
video.
wanted to ask you. Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey.
It's awesome. You remind me a little bit of Dustin from Stranger Things. Just a little bit. Look, he's an awesome dude. Come on.
Wow.
It's good to see you, man.
Hey, yeah, likewise.
Happy
Oh my
New
God,
Year, by
I'm
the
gonna
way.
cry. You
Yeah,
guys
Happy
didn't
New
see
Year,
each other
everybody.
for a year.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a while. It's been a long, hot minute.
jeez, this long year. That
Yeah.
can be said.
I've
Yes.
undergone some changes, like reflecting, introspection, trying to better myself. Really, I'm like not the sort of person you probably not the same person you may have known back when we first met. You know what I mean? I've changed a lot, so it's good.
It always sounds good.
Just,
Change, going forward. Progress, all that stuff.
Yeah. So, you guys are just reading poetry.
Yes. Do you
I
have any
heard some
fun?
of it. I, would like to contribute if that's all right at some point. I'm loosening up with a beer though at the moment. So, but is that all right? You don't mind me reading out some of my stuff later on?
No,
We
please,
want
please
to.
read. Yeah, dude, it's Friday evening. We are hanging out.
Yeah.
For AJ, it's morning. For Rogério, it's deep night.
It's okay.
Gotcha. All good.
Yes, it is. Indeed.
It's awesome. Like, Wolfie, you did not know Cordelh is at the university now. He's a
Yes.
student.
I started doing a bachelor in public relation, and I became a friend with Noam Chomsky, actually. For real.
I can
Really?
contest to
Yes.
that. Actually, yes, he was writing work on Noam Chomsky.
I'm just
and Noam Chomsky,
sending
like,
him, we're just having email correspondence, like exchanging emails. But it's
Oh
fun,
my God.
yeah. And
He's like one of my absolute heroes.
well, I mean, I was writing a paper about him, and I figured he's alive. I watched videos of him. Like, I might as well just send him an email and tell him, hey, I'm doing a paper on you.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
yeah. So he answered, and then, we kept exchanging a few emails, basically. Like,
Nice.
chilling mode.
Well, dude, that's pretty cool.
He kind of is kind of in a sense like Socrates of our days.
I like a lot what the message he shares with the world in general, like the concept of peace world, the people actually going forward instead of being controlled by elites or media or corporation or whatever. Now, I do think that it's important to be well educated in general, also to know about things. Like basically, yeah. I mean, yeah, all that is very political in a sense.
I'm very happy we can shout out Noam Chomsky. Like, oh,
Lol.
poetry reading without name dropping would be.
Lol. Everybody
Oh.
knows somebody, come on. Or has exchanged a few mails, with somebody.
Imagine
Yeah, I watched,
everybody knows somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah, Cordelh, I watched Noam Chomsky's Requiem for the American Dream.
Yeah.
The documentary. It was very good. I liked his message. It was on point. It's
I
good.
read like 3 books that he wrote just before writing my paper on him.
All right, dude.
It was but they're actually really easy to read. Actually, they're very accessible. Like if you guys ever want to, I personally didn't find that, while perhaps there is some type of social vocabulary that needs to be looked up now and then, but I didn't feel that way,
So not like Immanuel Kant.
Yeah, no. And actually, I would argue that in some ways, what he like the work about the media and the relations between media and corporation and government is really just like looking at something and putting it on paper, and because that existed, it's just that somebody needed to denounce it and write it in a way that everybody could understand that we're being tricked by, well, that we're not being tricked by, but that's all basically, or freedom of choice is limited by what is given to us, basically.
Yeah, what I really like about him too, it's like it's not just, it seems so obvious now, but before someone had the courage to say it, it's like I think it wasn't exactly so obvious. I remember I first found him when I was like probably 16 or so, and the feeling I had was like, wow, like someone is actually saying these things, like nobody else is saying this, but finally someone says it like it actually is. And I mean, for me, like I hadn't really heard anyone else around me talking like this, and like to hear that, I was like, oh yeah, like that is how it is. And it probably changed like a lot about how I think about things, and probably like the course of my life at that point.
Well, so they seem obvious, but they underhidden, like they underline under all the stuff that we're being sold, basically, all the commercial, the media, the specified news thingies, the scaremongering. If there is so many techniques. It's scary, actually. It's just scary. But about that, I do find it super interesting that the career of Noam Chomsky started pretty early, like way back when, by the end of the 60s or mid 60s, and like a lot of his books were actually censored, like all over the world, because back in those days you had a lot of dictatorship that were using those techniques and didn't want students to read about that. So I find that like mind-blowing when you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things are still being used. I mean, even in the US, for example, like manufactured consent, it's still very much a thing. And the other thing I really like about Noam Chomsky is like you're saying about how accessible his books are, which is true, but he also has the other side of things, which is like the super scientific, like super, super, super brainy. I was in a bookshop one time and I just found a book. I forget the exact title of it, but it was something like the algebra of language or something like that. And like, oh my God, it was like to break down everything into like almost like mathematical terms and in terms of like the way that we like communicate and everything. It was so deep, and I was like, oh my God, it was amazing. I wish I had bought it, but I have to go back for it or something. It was like it was probably too over my head, but he does both.
The way
It's-
oh, go ahead.
Just a little comment, which is, it seems that he recovers a very ancient idea that people are born with wisdom. There's kind of like innate wisdom in us, which was an idea spoken by Socrates and also other ancient philosophers. And so he's one of the guys that is reviving this idea.
Yeah, I love the way that Socrates talks about like learning as if you're remembering things and it's already written in your soul. I love that idea. Yeah, I definitely find that true. Like, I think that anyone, well, it gets pretty philosophical, but anyone who's alive has access to deeper knowledge.
You know, I was thinking about it recently, because I do find that somehow knowledge, as I understand it, may actually be harder to come by nowadays than it used to be, when there was only books and not the internet. Because, you know, perhaps there was only books and everything, all of that, and there was no internet like just at hand. But a lot of people read, you know, like books and spent their time reading stuff. And I do feel that nowadays the vocabulary is low. Even I feel like I could be better, you know, like I could reach for better. And like when I look at videos from the 60s or 70s, they had this well-spoken, you know, way of talking, you know, in which every word was thought about. And actually, I saw recently a documentary in which there were a few kids of 8 years old that speak better than people I see on TV on a regular daily basis. And it was like mind-blowing because they had a better vocabulary, they had a better opinion. Well, they still were shy, you know, like the questions were pretty simple, but they had an opinion, you know, and the vocabulary to express it. And that part is something I'm afraid of, like the way language is sort of, it's not that it's dissolving, but, you know, it's taking a different place in society, you know. Like,
Can I say, Casey, I just want to say something on that topic. One thing I actually don't like about language is how the definitions of things seem to be very subjective. Like one word, people just reinventing the meanings of things that actually have inherent meaning already. You know, it's sort of like you can't just change the associations of something and make it whatever you want. There's reasons why things are the way they are, like why words have certain meanings. And I mean, if you look at urbandictionary.com, you know, you're it's all over the place. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But even if you look at language as it has been for the past 2,000 years ago, you will find only in English language and Latin language like Portuguese and Spanish, Italian, French, whatnot. You will find a lot of words that infiltrated these languages that came from ancient Hebrew, ancient Greek, Latin, of course, and many others. And some of these words have emotional connotations. For example, words like Satan or divine or unicorn or whatnot that came from the Bible. And these words are completely normal if you're a Hebrew-speaking person. Satan just means adversary. Divine just means anointed with oil and stuff like that. But it gains a whole new meaning, a whole dimension that is out of touch with the real world, and it's mythologized beyond comprehension already, and probably used for control of the population.
I would argue that both in social science and in poetry, which we were doing, there is, you know, this factor in which you have, you know, like the emitter, or in the sense that the person that is saying something, the message itself and the way it's communicated and all of that, and then the receptor. But, like, for example, in poetry, I write a poem. It touches me a certain way, but I can never expect that all the rest of the world is gonna actually find the same meaning in the poem I wrote. You know, everybody's basically gonna have an interpretation of it, which means that in some way it's a little bit magic, because the way I see it is a poem has a million meaning, or an infinity of meaning, you know, for different persons. But at the same time, you know, I think it's the same case for communication in general. The factor of the receptor, the person that listens to a message, he will listen to a message the way he is meant, you know, like, I don't know if meant is the right word, but the way he's, you know, like the depending on his situation, depending on his state of mind, his history, his plenty of those things. So what I'm afraid about this society is that we may grow a little bit too familiar with cameras. You know, personally, but that's me. I mean, I love the communication all over the world.
It's so
you know.
funny how you're black and white and like you come from the past. We're back in my days. Well,
Yeah, I'm
by
here
the
to
way,
tell you
guys,
stories.
the painting behind Cordelh is AI generated.
Yeah,
It's like black and white, but like very much on time. AJ, so it's you and Wolfy have a stage at the moment for the poetry.
All right,
Well,
okay.
I actually just wanted to make a quick comment.
Ladies
about, like,
first.
language is like, it's super interesting how it evolves, and like when you think about it, it's not really the words that have meaning. It's like every person has their own mental world, I guess, and this is how we connect. And to me, I almost think of it as like almost like telepathy, only using like some sort of mouth vibrations. Like, it's so, if you really think about it and like break it down, it's like, it's so mysterious and strange how it's possible that we can ever like convey as much meaning as we can, like with just like sounds. Like it's so incredible. And yeah, like it is kind of an evolution, like the way that words also progress over time. So we are probably losing a lot of vocabulary, but I also think that we're probably also making a lot of vocabulary. And I mean, who's to say that the old is better? Maybe we're also losing about a lot of like junky words. But also, this is something I was thinking about earlier today, is that like we think of words and numbers as being kind of similar, but like numbers, they actually do have their own meaning. And that's like something I was just like being fascinated about it earlier today. Is like wow, like numbers are like so much more concrete, and those like they stay in a very concrete way like throughout history. And like even in ancient times, like they still had numbers and we still have numbers, and like that's a whole nother language that stays a little bit more, something more concrete.
Yeah, true.
totally.
Matt, Wolfy, if you want to read a poem, you're welcome to.
All right. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. No worries. Let me just grab it. I've got some new stuff actually. Been writing recently. Okay. Whew, which one should I read? Let me think. Okay. I'm going to read one. It's called Hope. Here we go. Give me a sec. In the search for the light, no one noticed the darkened skies on the opposite horizon. Divinity and the search for perfection, in my honest opinion, should be taken as a warning. Mortals are bound to the terrestrial. The unforgiving skies wield us, not the other way around. We live in a delusion of self-control. All the disciplines strain to secure us in the notion that we are the masters of this place, but nothing could be further from the truth. Just sharing space with the rest of creation, a singular voice amongst the choir, a song as an interwoven tapestry as old as time and beyond. The ego, whilst illusionary, just we organic machines infused with a humble sense of self, we can bring simplicity to our lives. Tempered by goodwill, patience, peace and love, and overall to bend our knees in the search for understanding, to listen to the almighty roar of the mountain and interpret its wild, violent rambling. Purpose is within. The dissonance, the noise, the wise soar above and observe and temper their own darkness and wrath with grace, delivering what ultimately should be a message of hope. Hope despite adversity, pain and suffering, dulling the cuts and incisions with positivity and humility. By simply being here, we give a piece of ourselves away to all things for the sake of experiencing life itself. This is the sacrifice and the gift given to us in form, in substance, the cosmic interplay that uncoils within the universe and within us. Every moment is sacred. True power is manifested in actions which benefit us all, as all are one.
Wow.
Definitely very
Awesome.
nice.
Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.
This
Yeah,
really gives food for thought.
Yeah, I think I've been on like
Okay.
kind of a bit of a spiritual sort of awakening or path, and some of the things I think about and talk about with people these days, just pulled into a bit of literature, and allowing it to sort of coalesce and kind of bring it like a working model, I suppose, the way I see the world. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I really enjoyed your description of ego. And then the last line about true power is realizing that we're all one. Like that's so beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. We are all one. I'm not sure I'm well equipped to actually talk about this further because I really don't have my thoughts collected today just yet. But yeah, I can't really talk about it further. But it's at some point, maybe a bit later on, I might need a few more beers just to loosen up a bit. Probably a little bit nervous, I have to admit. But, be all right.
Good to see you, though.
Good
Thanks,
to see you,
guys.
Wolfy.
I
I can
appreciate that.
contest to it. Wolfy doesn't like to be on camera, so he was
I
very
hate it.
shy.
You
Fucking
look
hate
good,
it.
man.
It's the
Yeah.
first time I see Wolfy in ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind
Well, it's all because of the fact that I see that like what you're doing, Nodrik, is something I admire and respect. So if I can add to it rather than take away from it, I'm willing to contribute. And
Thanks, dude.
here I am. Woo!
Yeah,
Rock
thanks,
and
dude.
roll.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
I actually thought about AJ's work and AJ, you have a beautiful voice. If you will just read your poems with a little bit of your that power that you have, like I really admire the delicate passion with which you read. Wolfy is a remixer. So he goes and like he does those DJ tracks out of the voice. It's amazing. I have done like 3 works with Wolfy already so far, and it's genius. So I was thinking if you guys can work together, I would be like really happy to attribute your work. And not attribute, what the fuck? Sorry, English language barrier. I can always blame it on it. So I would be happy if people can collaborate.
Yeah.
Collaborate, like, and do some creations together, because you know, like, internet is filled with negative things, but like beautiful things are valuable right now. They're precious, and I always grateful for people like Rogério, Wolfy, Ilinks, AJ. I remember all of your names, girl, but still, like AJ. I will delete that, and of course Cordelh, and it's amazing. So we can do always magic together. So it's fine.
Yeah, I think it just all it takes is a little bit of stay to itness, motivation, and dedication. You can do whatever you want. We can make our dreams manifest in 2023 and be free. You know.
Yeah,
be
AJ,
free
you
in
will be on
2023.
iTunes. No, not iTunes. What the fuck? Like how the Spotify. And Rogério will be on Spotify.
Awesome.
And Cordelh will be on Spotify.
Cool. Everyone's going to be on Spotify. That's the end
we
goal.
are the underdogs taking over the market. Like very shy. Like, oh. No offense.
Yeah. So you know, I'm actually, see, at one point when I was doing music, was not open to collaboration. I just wanted to do my own thing. But yeah, I think I've changed in that regard. I'm humbled, and I just want to sort of work with others and see where that goes. I realized that maybe I can actually learn something from others, and it wasn't I think the thing is, like, I was a little bit closed off to things. Things like trauma, upbringing, those sort of things lead to us sometimes wanting to shut things out. But not want to talk about that though. But it's good to open up and good to collaborate and good to see things from another person's point of view, their different process and structure for doing things, because it's all unique to the individual. And if we can all sort of talk in a somewhat similar language, about this stuff, even if it might be a bit hard to explain, and we just sort of try to really understand where each of us are coming from in that journey, then anything's possible. It all just takes humility, really. That's it.
Yeah, this what you just read, it's just humility and the breaking down of the anthropocentric hubris, and what you're saying is absolutely consistent with what you just read.
Well, it's an extension of who I am, like my writing. So yeah.
Just like
I believe a lot, like, it's easier to talk about these things, a lot harder to walk in those things. So that's where it's really at. It's difficult, but it's difficult to walk.
Most thinkers were kind of like weekday philosophers, and then when they were out of their job, they would just do something else, possibly even inconsistent with what they thought and wrote professionally. And there were very few exceptions in history, and one of those exceptions was Socrates. The guy never went out of character. And so it's really precious to find someone that
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's it's an ongoing effort. I mean, everyone falls short, of this stuff. So all you can do is just try your best, really. And I'm trying, doing what I can, maintaining my my self-respect and hopefully dignity along the way, and treating others as I wish to be treated, the golden rule. So
You have to be careful about that golden rule, because sometimes people want to be treated differently, you know. So, and you never know what they find acceptable either.
Yeah, it's very
You may
subtle.
not want to be treated the same way they treat everybody else, you know.
True. Yeah. Yeah. True. I know. I did get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Because
There-
isn't
there-
that telling what people often project um, their own perception or way of being onto other people and assume a lot about who other people are. Yeah, and you've got to, you can't assume because you've just got to go off experiential evidence.
It's a leap of faith, but a good leap of faith. Like
It is
something that is
yeah.
actually worth,
You're
you
right.
know, because if you manage to pull the leap of faith and let's say you do a bullseye and you find yourself a new friend, then, you know, it's worth it. It's friendship for years, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
people come and go in your life. Sometimes they're just there to show you a lesson and they come back and they're like, shit, you actually changed. I've changed, I'm sure you've changed, Cordelh. I'm sure Car has changed. And
the foundations
when I meet the
are.
other two people here later on, I'm sure they'll develop in years to come too. AJ
Okay,
and
Wolfy, Cordelh has changed, but he will never admit to it.
I don't change. I'm sturdy as a rock.
He
My
totally
roots
has
go.
changed, but he will never
Yeah.
admit to it. Just what the-
I'm unchanging. I'm
Sorry,
unchanging.
Rogério and AJ wanted to say something, guys, and you like were
Yeah.
so busy catching
Sorry.
up.
Yeah,
not at
go
all.
for
It's
it.
okay.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I guess I had something to say about collaboration. This is like very relevant to my life right now. I'm trying to build an environment for collaboration because my dreams are way too big for me to do by myself. So I'm like trying to recruit other people to help. But also, it reminded me of what Rogério and I were talking about, or what he mentioned earlier about Socrates, and like the part of the soul that like remembers or something like that. Like for me, the most fun part about collaboration is to find that part of the person that's being drawn towards the part that remembers or whatever, and then to figure out how those pieces fit together with everyone in the whole, so that we can all collectively go towards that direction. But everyone
Mind
is
expansion.
that self-motivation. That's to me
Yeah.
is the most beautiful thing about collaboration. that I just think.
Vibration, elevation, the search for divinity, even though we all fall short, it's still worth it.
There are some very
Sure.
serious people out there, though, you know. Like you say, the search for, you know, like some extensive truth, but there is some people that are actually looking for it in an obsessive way, you know, or at the very least way, in a very passionate way, in a way that's
Well,
too passionate, you know.
Cordelh, we are tiny human beings on a ball revolving around the ball of fire, contemplating the complexities of life and writings of Stoic poets.
It's the case for every ideology and every chain of thought, actually, basically.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's more a question of character than, you know, really the message there.
Well, you're right. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I think it's a bit of both. It's not either or, it's both. That's what I think.
Guys, give stage to Rogério right now. Let me be a felicitator.
Okay. What are friends if not a soul sharing two bodies?
Wow.
Oh,
Good stuff. I like it.
I don't know why Kara is laughing her ass off for. What is going on over there?
what about friends that are not two bodies sharing a soul? Did I misheard it?
I don't know if such friends are friends.
Well, Roger, I misheard it. Sorry. Like what?
This is, I think, it's something either from Aristotle or Plato, and he was mentioning friends are are merely a soul sharing two bodies. And so, well, it's kind of like the same thing that animates one of them also animates the other. There's a resonance. They are pulling in the same direction. They are synchronized. There's a harmony there. And so the ancient people would interpret it as the same soul is animating those two guys, those two people that are like tooth and nail. And when that happens, marvelous collaborations can happen. Awesome synergies can happen. The sum of the skills of the two individuals, or more than two, are more than the sum of the parts, because different fields, they integrate with each other in very interesting ways. And so, yeah, collaborations are great, but it's really important to start from, yes, the golden rule is a great starting place. Of course, then we need to figure out where the other person is at, so we can adjust as well.
Yeah.
Kind of figure out where the person is to also go there where they are, and vice versa. And then we can move on to things like, what if everyone in the world was behaving like I am behaving? Would it be a great world, or would it be a not so great world?
Well, luckily the world doesn't work that way, so we don't have to worry about that at all, because everyone's got their own individual personality and their way of doing things. So I think that one man against all odds, or that someone has to represent as the absolute example of all mankind in themselves, is sort of, you know, it's a bit too much. You know, I think the thing is that we can make our statement, we can be who we are without needing to represent the greater whole. You know, we're just a small piece in the puzzle. Chill, you know.
We are part of the puzzle. I mean, just that we are part of the puzzle, we're not the puzzle. You know, I mean, we are a puzzle perhaps on a smaller scale, but you know, that's something else.
Well, we are the puzzle, but we're a piece in the puzzle. Like so the puzzle was also its own puzzle piece fitting into everything else.
Basically, it's a puzzle game mixed with Russian doll kind of stuff. You know, you have the puzzle within the puzzle within the puzzle.
Doll. Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. Yeah. I would put it down to really the duality within all things. You know, the duality within all things. You've got you have the light and the dark, or the positive and the negative, and then you've got the light and the dark in the light and the dark, and the positive and the negative in the positive and negative, and it goes on and on. You know, it's like that.
This is almost a multiverse kind of conversation. You know?
Yeah, man. Oh yeah, I mean, the more you contemplate it, the more your brain just goes, you know, yeah,
that's funny. So
guys, take over. I will be back in 5 minutes.
Just
you can have all your honor kit here. No eye watching over you. Links has the final word though. She's my boss now.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we could either continue chatting or read something.
Let's break it up. Let's read some.
Yeah. Who goes first?
Does anyone have something that they'd like to read?
Oh, I've got plenty of stuff. Let's read something a little.
Go ahead, Cordelh.
Yeah. Let's try this one. Falling in a well from within which I see infinite timelines and realities, all converging into one another. In overwhelming array of colors, I see the silhouette of Rainbow Lass, glittering from uncounted twinkling stars. It's like seeing her through the looking glass when by myself, and not find this bizarre. She makes me want to dance and sing around birthday songs that silence all other sound. Yet Her voice is a gate to other worlds and tells the story of legends untold that, if followed, can lead us to treasures fitting to our own measure. It's like she wants to share her inner thoughts and, with words, inspire our inner hopes, connecting all dots as if all was wrought together in a kaleidoscope.
That's awesome. That's really relevant with the infinite.
That was just, yeah, that was like, we're talking about fathoming the infinite, really, weren't we? And that just was like slotted right in. Like, here you go. Yeah, I've always loved that poem. You've read it to me before, Cordelh.
I'm sure of it. Yeah, that is not
Yeah,
a
for
recent
sure.
poem.
That's definitely one of your standout pieces. For sure, I love it.
Fun to read
Yeah.
too. You know.
Yeah, I think that's good because, you know, I like the way that you phrase all that. It just sounds so positive and uplifting, cathartic, and it has a cleansing effect hearing that poem. You know, it's not like, I mean, you know how I doubt you've heard. I mean, these two here haven't heard some of the crazy shit that I go on with in my poetry. It can be really dark, my poetry, but you know, but still,
It's fun to
you know,
explore, you know.
it's good to see. Yeah, you could go. Yeah, the polarities. We're talking about polarities. So, yeah.
I personally find the happy, glittery, joyful rainbow, I don't know what style, much harder to actually write.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's me.
Yeah. It is because, I mean, there's only so far whimsy can go. You know, you can I love whimsy. I love whimsy, but I'm not. I try to do that myself, but I end up like when I try to go down a whimsical path, it sort of ends up going down to the circle of hell. You know, like
starts in
you know,
heaven
like
and
Dante's Inferno instead of like just, you know, like rainbows and pixies and fucking unicorns farting. Yeah.
It's funny because to write Dante's Inferno, it was much more easier to write about the hell than paradise, because hell was just using building blocks from the real world.
Guys, I'll say this. I'll
in a
say
sense.
our depictions of heaven and the ideal honestly falls short, because how could, you know, how could we ever actually believe that we can understand that, you know, in our world full of suffering and pain and chaos and hatred and prejudice and bias and all these horrible ills that we do to each other on a daily basis. I hate to say it, you know, there's a lot of wickedry in the world, and a lot of things we learn from suffering, you know. So to say that you can just suddenly go whoa right up there and get there without even doing the work, you know, we have to suffer to learn. You know, it unfortunately, you know, when you were growing up, your parents would probably give you advice like, you shouldn't do that thing, you know, it's gonna, you know, don't do that thing. And
You
the
do
kid
that.
thinks that's the thing I'm gonna do, you know, and we can't help it. We're naturally curious. We have to screw up on our own and fuck it up and figure it out. So then we get to heaven. That when we learn, when we walk through hell, then we get to that point of realization of like, shit, I may have actually got some wisdom from that experience, and I don't want to repeat the thing over and over again. So
From suffering can come beautiful and good things.
That's it, man.
I think there's also something about like sensation. For us to receive sensation in general is like suffering in some ways. Like, for example, when you come into the world, the first breath of a baby is painful. Like they're crying or screaming. Like for them to feel at all is like suffering. And so yeah, I think like it might be. It's also like the idea that we perceive light because of darkness. Like, I guess we have to know what suffering is to know what happiness is, or something like that.
I think the thing is that the thing that a lot of spiritual people seem to avoid is that like they only think that light brings form, but darkness also has form. You just can't see it. you know, there's a lot to the darkness that you figure out, even though you're stumbling through it, hurting yourself and injuring yourself and going through pain along the way. Then you can finally figure out, oh, let's shine a light on this. You know, I've stumbled through this situation. Now I can see it more clearly because I've been through that. Then you find the light, you shine the torch, and you go, oh, I was just stumbling through a whole cluttered mess. So
So the
well,
question
hello,
is,
Jones, Andre, welcome to chat.
Andrew, yeah.
Hey,
Hi, Andrew.
just on my camera.
Yeah. I really like at least 3 of you I know own pets. So Wolfy, Andrew, and Rogério. And how you, AJ? Do own a cat?
What's that?
Oh,
Oh, do I?
a
the
cat.
evil twin. There's
No,
two
not
AJs
yet.
in here now. 2 AJs we've got. So they're multiplying. We might get a third one soon.
oh, that's true. Wow.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, what?
And then
It's
as soon as we have a third one, we will have 10,000.
Well, yeah.
It's exponential.
What a kitty.
That's awesome. Guys, so Andrew and Wolfie both in Australia. What time is it in Australia at the moment? Is it morning?
Yep.
It's very
It's
morning.
10:20 a.m. here with me.
Yeah, same
on
here.
the East Coast. Cool, man.
Yeah.
East Coast represent, bruh. And yeah.
So
Andrew
you're
is
on
also
the
a
coast.
musician.
Is there anything in the west coast of Australia, actually?
Or is anyone over there?
Is there what?
Does anyone live in the
miners?
West Coast?
Yeah, duh.
No?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. What are they mining over there? They're mining what again? Yellow cake?
Cobalt and uranium, I think. And some
Yeah.
coal.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, we
Yellow.
always need more uranium in this world.
Oh,
For
yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yeah.
More uranium, more uranium.
Cobalt sounds pretty good too, actually. Sorry, that was sarcasm. Just to make sure. Yeah.
What?
I missed
Shut
it.
out
You have to-
all
you
the
have to-
Cobalt users.
I don't even know what that means.
People need cobalt to make their PlayStations and cell phones.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen a documentary about I don't know what lake in I don't know which country where they were actually mining something like that, and the lake turned acidic, like deadly acidic, like
Oh,
hell type of style.
not good. Yeah, you don't want your
These humans, they're always trying to recreate Virgil's or Dante's Inferno on Earth.
Recreate. I think we live there already. You don't need to recreate it.
So creative.
All right. So, Andre, do you write poetry?
I haven't in a long time. I
Okay.
only wrote one poem, and it was because I said to Cara, I can't write poetry. She said,
Wow,
you should
okay.
try. I'm like, okay. And that's the only poem I've ever written.
You
I seem to
should
keep
read it.
disappearing. I keep disappearing into space here. Like I just disappear. Yeah. So I'm on the camera. The weird things happening. Cool. Well, that's okay, Andre. Yeah, it's all good. You could read us your one poem if you really want. Like, yeah.
I don't actually know where I saved it. Let me have a look.
All right. Well, it's all good, man. Well,
I have a poem here. It's not mine.
Cordelh has
But,
like about 1 million poems. So.
Yeah, I don't want to read it though. I think somebody else should read it.
I should read it.
You should read it. Perfect. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, put it in Kara's server or something. I think you were still friends.
DM it to Wolfie. I have to
I got
invite
it. Got it.
Cordelh to my server
He got it.
first.
Oh, right. Is that it?
All
Fair
right.
enough.
Sure. You
This
know,
can,
poem is by Cordelh. No, it's actually not by Cordelh. It's by
mine.
Bonnie Parker. It's by a,
yeah,
this is by a poet called Bonnie Parker. and
it's not a
called
I mean, Bonnie and
Prose?
Clyde. It's a
Is it?
poem from Bonnie
Oh.
Parker from Bonnie and Clyde. So
Okay. Alrighty. You want to give us a little bit more of a backstory before I read?
no, I just was looking at because I remembered that she wrote a bunch of poems.
Mhm.
And she wasn't actually bad. You know, she was actually pretty good. I also remembered that some of the stuff, like,
Hmm.
like some of the dialect she used was very much from that her time. You know, her
So
period.
wait, she wrote Bonnie and Clyde, then Bonnie Parker.
No, Bonnie
Well,
Parker was
is a character?
Bonnie from Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh yeah, okay.
She
So,
was
yeah,
one
sorry,
of
gotcha.
the criminals of the pair of
Yeah,
criminals.
I'm not really
She
familiar.
was
I'm not,
actually,
not
yes.
familiar with that. Was probably the
Criminal is a
dumbest
big
question I think I
word.
could have asked all day. But I don't know Bonnie and Clyde. And
You don't know Bonnie and Clyde?
never really watched it. Nah, sorry. I just wasn't in that point of I'm not going to assume
You don't
anything.
need to watch any
So,
movie. You need to look it
yeah.
up. It's a story. It's a real story. You know, like back in
Is it?
the 20s or something like that. I can't even remember exactly when. Those two just got really sick of the shit in which they lived.
Yeah.
Stole a car, stole a couple of guns, and then started robbing banks. And all they
Wow,
did
okay.
was driving
Nice.
around with these really fast cars, while all the cops had those really crappy 1920s cars. Because basically, it was also, you
Yeah.
know, the beginning of cars, you know. So
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and when
gotcha.
they stopped, they got caught, sadly. So yeah, that's the one mistake they did. Is
Oh.
yeah, they should have kept going. You know, drive, rob banks, drive, rob banks. But you know,
Yeah,
no,
they did
it's
just keep driving like Thelma and Louise right off the cliff.
Thelma and Louise is highly inspired of that real story, actually.
Really? There you see. Synchronicity. I was gonna. Okay, I'll read it then. Here we go. Outlaws. Billy rode on a pinto horse. Billy the Kid, I mean. And he met Clyde Barrow riding a little grey machine. Billy drew his bridle rein, and Barrow stopped his car. And the dead man talked to the living man under the morning star. Billy said to the Barrow boy, "Is this the way you ride? In a car that does 90 per, machine guns at each side. I only had my pinto horse and my 6-gun, tried and true. I could shoot, but they got me, and someday they will get you. For the men who live like you and me are playing a losing game, and the way we shoot or the way we ride is all about the same. And the like of us may never hope for the death to us set free, for the living are always after you, and the dead are after me." Then out of the east arose the sound of hoofbeats with the dawn, and Billy pulled his rein and said, "I must be moving on." And out of the west came the glare of light and the drone of a motor's song, and Barrow set his foot on the gas and shouted back, "So long." So into the east Clyde Barrow rode, and Billy into the west, the living man who can know no peace, and the dead who can know no rest.
I love it personally. You know,
Flawless reading, by the way. Thank you very much.
I loved it. Yeah, you gotta give it to Bonnie Parker to have been a pretty decent poetess for a bandit and a bank robber.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
absolutely. It's a great poem. And like with the context, it's like that's really
It is pretty gnarly, yeah.
I don't know what happened to her, but I do know that during the trial of Clyde, she was pretty, you know, verbal, pretty active poetry-wise and stuff like that. Like she
You know what?
posted stuff on the news.
I'm gonna get rid of this space image and just go straight for my like cluttered room instead. Maybe I could do a blurred, but no, I'm cutting out and everything. My ears look like at some points it just disappears. So I'm gonna get rid of this.
It's like a flatland. You're blinking in
Okay.
and out of flatland.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm a
Yeah.
fifth dimensional creature.
Yeah. The probably because the background and your shirt are similarly colored, and the algorithm can't tell them
Yeah.
apart so well.
Algorithm can't do plaid, man. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, probably it. Yeah. Okay, so that was really good, Cordelh. I'm glad you shared that. I actually felt that when I read that. I'm like, "Grr," like the feeling of those outlaws in that time period and all the backstory you gave me, it just put me in that place. It was really good.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. I think that's the magic about
was fun.
poetry. Yeah.
I think the thing is, breaking the law really is fun, isn't it? So
And
it's
It's an Australian not to break
it
the
has
law.
to be. That's why they do it, right? You know, because it's fun.
The poem itself also holds a message, and probably the entire poetic creation of Bonnie, because it completely subverts the idea or the notion that such criminals are illiterate fools.
Yeah. You're
no,
right,
they were
man.
not stupid people. They were not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. Articulate people, men and women that just put in bad circumstances and for whatever reason chose the wrong path. Doesn't mean they're less intelligent than anybody else, just means they're badasses.
yeah, I do
Pretty much
agree
it.
with that, actually. Because think about it, living in the middle of the 1920s crisis where people were homeless, there was no human rights, no worker right, no, I don't know what's right. Basically, people lived in crap, you know, like in
The
the
Great
equivalent
Depression.
of, they lived during that period. So basically, they lived in a period where what we consider refugee camps were neighborhoods in the city. It was really bad. So when you take that into account, and then the total lack of opportunity, like basically wherever you were born, you were gonna straight up go down, you know, whatever happens.
Yeah. No upward momentum whatsoever. You're just stuck.
Yeah. And if you're already all the way down the ladder, I mean, you might as well fucking climb it, you know. I know it's wrong.
Rob a
to
few
say,
banks, you know. Why not? Yeah.
Survive.
I can understand the impetus. I can understand the impetus. I can
Yeah.
understand the reason, the motivation. I know why there's people were just so desperate. Like, why not? You know, I mean, if you're stuck in that situation and there's absolutely no way out, then you're gonna do some crazy ass shit in order to climb up and get out of that situation, because no one wants to be down there at the bottom suffering.
Yes,
You know?
I'm pretty
Well,
sure they
that's
were
how
kids too, you know, like they were children, you know, like
That's how we end up
Andrew.
with that's how we ended up with Hitler, though. Well, it was like doing crime from circumstances outside of your control. Like that's literally why he formed the Nazi Party, was because he wanted to make a prosperous Germany for the Germans.
I said I can sympathize with that way of thinking, not that I endorse it. That's pretty much
that's
where
it
I'm at,
though,
you know?
because Hitler is literally the symbol of authority. Bonnie and Clyde are the symbol of rebellion against, you know, a broken system.
It's the man.
So,
you know, Hitler
not saying
was the
it's the
man. He was a
man, it's just-
douchebag. Hitler was the man and a douche.
He was a controlling freak, you know.
Yeah, but there's a story arc. There's a story
Started
arc
off as
always.
rebellion, yeah.
Before the guy
Went to
becomes authoritarian, he's anti-establishment, but he gains power and his true self becomes even more expressed because power.
But isn't that
reveals-
That's another good point, because no one should ever have that amount of power, because we're all corrupt. Humans are all flawed. That's why we need decentralized government.
Hitler was the engulfing
point.
of the shadow of the ego, because it starts off as a super ego trying to control through rebellion, and then the shadow just engulfs both the state, the German people, and himself, and
Well, I
it
mean,
turns
also
into like pure chaos.
mob mentality as well. You know, like you can't argue with that. You'll notice in sort of certain circumstances when you're around certain people, they completely throw the baby out with the bathwater and everything, and they their own bias and prejudice for things, especially if someone's held back or marginalized already, or it's a segregated area of society, or people feel like they're being held back, and someone's like, hey, you know, I've got all the answers. Just all you have to do is just focus all your anger on this one particular group of people, and everything's going to be okay. It's all their fault while you're in this situation, and that's pretty much what Hitler did.
And then the communists as well. The communists, instead of a particular group of people, I guess you could say the bourgeoisie, but it was at the system rather than like it's capitalism's fault versus it's the problem of like the Jews and elsewise that fascism had.
Yeah,
well,
awesome.
Sort of. Maybe get off this hot topic. Let's get off the hot topic of Hitler, because Hitler always gets brought up, I think, at least once in every single conversation with people. So
I'm sure he wrote some poetry, didn't he? I'm just teasing.
Shut up, Mein Kampf.
It's like you just be sitting around with a group of people, like, you know, at the beach. You know, you got a raging fire happening, boombox. By the way, do you know about Hitler? He did this thing just randomly.
Wolfy,
just bring it up.
I'm gonna give the stage to AJ at the moment before we close up, and so AJ and Andrew have the stage at the moment.
Right. Okay, I feel like the poems that I want to read next are actually somewhat relevant to this topic, especially what Wolfy said about sometimes breaking the law is fun or something like that. Like, I can understand, like, in those circumstances when the law is kind of like built against you, that it's kind of a good thing to break it, I guess. But also, there's something about, like, if you fuck around, you'll find out. So the next poems that I have are kind of about fucking around and finding out. So the first one is like the dive into the darkness and like enjoying the nighttime when it's like, oh, haha, no rules. And also kind of dedicated to the god Dionysus. I don't know who here is into mythology, but Dionysus is the god of wine and also fertility.
He's the man.
And
he's the man. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, like, the story goes that people who follow him go insane. And I think that's, like, a really interesting way to look at darkness, in that, like, it's sometimes very fertile and, like, but it's also, like, you can go insane. So there's definitely a price to be paid. So the first poem I have to read is, like, it's kind of about a siren song.
Go for it, mate.
The walls and the floor ring with a black tone, the siren song. A bass note resonates with an eerie strength, enticing, swirling in and out of harmony with something like perfection. Only a dark kind of wisdom that follows. For where it goes, one dare not ask. The mesmerizing music might stop if you dare to question the making of it. No doubt the guide leads only to darkness, where it will deceive and devour as payment for the dance. But maybe it's too late to think of that now. Only listen to the dark bass note of black.
Oh yeah.
And then
enjoy the moment.
I have to...
Well, wouldn't you say that's like living life despite the consequences? Enjoying the moment despite the consequences. Would that kind of be the vibe?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like throw caution to the wind. Just enjoy the moment. Okay. Go next one. Hit us.
So the next one, it's like there's kind of two parts to it, and the first one seems pretty happy, and then there's like a darker second bit to it, which I think is like, yeah, well, it's the duality or something like that. Goodness and love are intertwined in an infinite, eternal marriage. It is love which proves goodness, and goodness which proves love. Goodness which loves me teaches me to love goodness. It is the voice of love spoken within my own heart which draws me into the way of goodness. But in the absence of love, I scorned goodness, and in the absence of goodness, I scorned love. I have sought out the absence of goodness to justify my lovelessness. Then, in my own guilt, I searched out a dwelling place where there is no love. There is neither goodness or love left for me now, only absence.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. And that's sort of sad. It's a sad ending. But yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy the topic of like love and law, because like good laws should actually make us more free.
Yeah.
And so to follow that, like, yeah, like it makes life better. And so it's like it's something that you don't have to feel like you have to do it. It's like, oh, it's something that I want to do. And like someone was saying about like the kid who, as soon as you say to not do that, you do it. That's, I think the wiser perspective is to understand that like these things are made, the good ones are made for my benefit, and that's like, it's a joy to be able to follow the laws, I guess.
Well, law should protect the innocent, you know, and a lot of them favor the corrupt, you know, because that's the way things are warped in today's world. So, yeah.
Isn't it?
It's a very ancient problem.
Yeah.
But,
Who are the lawmakers? That's what we got to ask.
Solon, the lawmaker of Athens, he mentioned that laws are like spider webs. Small critters are caught in them, but the big ones just go through and unscathed and uncaught.
Yeah, that's right.
Good point, Rogério. Okay, guys, I'm gonna close soon, but I would love to hear Andrew's poem or lyrics before
I
we
couldn't
go.
find the poem, but I found something I wrote that was on my Discord, which I can read out.
Yeah, totally.
I think it was, I don't know, like an affirmation or like something like that. But or an overly crafted compliment, but it's when God crafted your eyes, he must have used the radiance and an unadulterated beauty from the shining wings of angels. As when I stare into your deep gaze, I feel entrenched into moments of eternity, awestruck by the wonder of the joy of being in the company of such another gracious, unique, and amazing being. Our moments together in the infinitude of the granular divisibility are far more precious than the long span of one single life or epoch, as they demonstrate the uniqueness and ever-loving life and existence of joy that can be brought out in the smallest moment in time's grand eye.
Yeah, that's good. That's almost like you're sort of emphasizing the fact that this is a transient experience. You know, it's not meant to last. So embrace it while it's here. Yeah, that's good. And love while you can. Yeah.
And
So,
we
man,
are
it's beautiful.
together in this thing, this being or samsara or whatever.
Samsara. Yeah, I love that word, by the way. It's great. Yeah. That was good, Andre. Nice work.
I raise my glass to your poem.
I'm going to get another beer, actually, but
It's more than
hey,
a glass.
if anyone wants to hang out later on somewhere, like I can actually give some invites to my Discord if anyone wants to join.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll be around.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
where would I
but
put that?
the
Because
time
we're on
will go.
Zoom. What was that? Sorry?
Put it
Sorry.
on my server,
Yeah.
Wolfy, and everybody is in my server. If,
Okay, sweet.
If Cordelh ever accepts my invitation.
Okay,
Oh,
gotcha.
gosh, no pressure.
No pressure.
Gosh.
Guys, I will leave the Zoom up as well if you want to hang out. Everybody,
Oh, yeah.
thank you so much, Andrew. Finally, you come in. AJ, I'm also happy to see you. Cordelh and Wolfy, I have seen you both separately. Awesome that you finally reconnected. Rogério, dude, your wisdom is always awesome. Like, thank you so much. And now I'm trying to find the ways to stop the live stream. So everybody,